covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Outfield in under the radar today. You like to see it. Naya back in New York City. We've got Ryan Smith helping us out because today is a very exciting day. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. Of course, we are VSiN Live on Mad Dog. However, obviously, it's a combination. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, which is channel 158. And then we are here on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Part of the deal is we are going to be streaming live on YouTube. So you can find the link on YouTube at VSiN Live. Go ahead if you'd like to see what this Dustin got a fade. So he went to his barber. You want to see what it looks like. He's flexing now. He's 40. He's still doing shtick. But that's where we start today. A tremendous job by everybody behind the scenes, including Dez and Miles and everybody in connection with making this happen as we start streaming on YouTube, VSiN Live. So you can find the link at VSiN Live. I believe the big guy, Dustin Swedelson, as we say hi, hope you had a nice weekend. I believe he is posting the link all over the place so you can find it.
Yeah, pretty fired up. Does that make us YouTubers now? Are we now part of that other generation? Is it the Generation X below us? Like we're now cooler because we're officially streamers on YouTube? Do we have to get Twitch pages? Like what else do we have to do here to keep cool with the kids?
He's starting nervous, people. This isn't good. This is a rough. It's rough. He's got cracking in his voice. I don't know, dude. Tell everybody where they can find it. I'm not Jake Paul. I don't know what to tell you.
It's very simple. If you don't know how to use YouTube,
don't get angry.
Don't get angry. You go into YouTube, whether it's the website or the app, you type in VSiN Live on Twitter, VSiN Live on YouTube. It's all available for you there. You click it, it'll say that something is happening live. You just open it up, and we're right there. You see our beautiful faces.
We'll get there. Well, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. He knows what I'm talking about. Look, we're excited to be on YouTube. I don't know if we're streamers. We know that it's been an awesome connection with VSiN and Mad Dog Sports Radio. The last month has been beyond anything we could have expected. Everybody on both sides happy. It's been great to reconnect with all of you. The outpouring has been, to be honest with you, overwhelming. So to add another element to this broadcast is something we're very proud to do. So check it out at VSiN Live if you want to see Dustin's new haircut. And take a look. He's talking about losing all that weight. Let's see if you can notice, does he look any different? I see he's wearing a black shirt today because it's slimming.
99% of my wardrobe is black T-shirts at this point, Patrick, for that very reason. There are no horizontal stripes available in the closet right now.
Right, maybe horizontal as well as we try to go up and down and side to side. The big guy, he'll settle in, people. It's okay. The big guy is fired up because he's put together his takeaways from the combine as if, I don't know if the combine is legit anymore. There is some, I don't know if it's good or bad, but there is some thoughts about Shedeur Sanders that some of these families, some of the teams are having coming out of the combine. Maybe a little cocky, maybe a little brash. So we'll talk about those that are trending up coming out of the combine, those that are trending down. Now, as far as college hoops today, you've got two top 25 matchups, but they're not necessarily top 25. Wake Forest is a good basketball team. They're at Duke, and that is underway. Duke is a phenomenal second-ranked team in the country, coming off this past weekend where they put a beatdown on Florida State, 100-65 if you're taking score at home. And then later, the preseason number 1, Kansas, is at number 3, Houston, and Houston had a big weekend as well. By the way, Houston just went back-to-back as far as Big 12 titles, second straight outright for Houston in 2 years in the league, and they beat Cincy 73-64. Did you know that this Houston Cougar team started 4-3, and since then they've gone 21-1 if you need them. So Calvin Sampson and the boys rounding into shape as we round into March, Mr. Swedelson. So Kansas, who's 19-10, they lost over the weekend at home to Texas Tech. Bill Self, until this year, never lost at home, and now he can't stop losing at home. And that was your preseason number one, Rock Chalk Jayhawk, big guy.
Hunter Dickinson, all the hype, but just not the rest of the threats we're used to seeing from Kansas, not as deep as they normally are. Maybe NIL's playing a role in that. Houston's a bad matchup for them. Houston's physical. Houston plays defense. I think it's so funny in a time where we all get caught up in the three-point shot and offensive efficiency. Kelvin Sampson's out here, and where the offense is solid for Houston this year, don't get me wrong, but every year you rely on that Cougar defense to show up, to limit opponents, play their ugly style of basketball, and they walk away going to the Elite Eight, the Final Four, whatever it may be. They're just a dangerous team because they show up and they're tough every single night.
And then finally, you have Auburn, who's not in action tonight. But I was reading an article before the program started. And you can tell me if it's just me, but this commentator was talking about Auburn as an all-time great team. Like up there as far as one of the better college basketball in modern day, one of the better college basketball teams we've seen. And they went to Kentucky over the weekend and absolutely pummeled them 94-78. I think there's a couple of things at play here, as obviously they'll be an unquestioned one seed going into the tournament. A couple of things at play. The SEC is tough this year, so what they've done, they've had the toughest schedule in all of college basketball and absolutely plowed through it, including going to Lexington and disrespecting Kentucky. 6 straight weeks at number one. I think a couple, like Bruce Pearl is not beloved. Bruce Pearl has a reputation as being a tad shady. He's boisterous. He's boastful. He's a hell of a coach. Back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, I believe is where he was at prior to getting into the big leagues at Tennessee and now Auburn. I've been at Auburn for a while. Auburn wasn't a very good Auburn hasn't historically been a very good program. But this article went on to explain and statistically gave reasons why this is a basketball team we can talk about, 2012 Kentucky, some of those modern, very good basketball teams. Now, the problem is, I think a loss aspect of college basketball and just college sports today, obviously, is you don't really get a feel for the teams. Like, is this Auburn team great? If you've watched them play, it's unquestionable. They do everything. But you don't have that romanticism. You don't have that connection. You don't have a feeling like we know who these players are because of the constant come and go with the portal. So while they very may well end up winning a national championship and being discussed as an all-time great team, there's just that leaves us wanting as far as connecting with the basketball team. Fair?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, but I'd also then give them the credit in a world where it's so difficult to compile this many special players, this many players who can do a little bit of everything. Like, that's the thing that jumps out to me when I watch Auburn. They can score, they can shoot from the outside, and they're all pretty much willing defenders. They're super aggressive on both ends of the floor. They're also very efficient on both ends of the floor. And when you compare to their counterparts around college basketball right now, depth is a major problem for most programs. It is not a problem for this Auburn team. That's why I would give them, a little bit of an edge in that conversation of being one of the all-timers if we're just going to grade it compared on everyone else around them.
Yeah, that they are, again, 6 straight weeks at one. So it's going to be Auburn, Duke. Florida lost to Georgia over the weekend, so they're going to slip. Houston's going to move up to 3. The best game of the weekend, I don't know if you were working, hanging out with Shouty, but Bama 6 at Kentucky 5, buzzer beater 3 for Tennessee, I should say, pardon me, Tennessee in a win. So that is Rick Barnes is going to give it another go, people, and he is going to dispel the myth that come springtime, he chokes, and we shall see.
Am I going to do it? Am I going to jump in on Tennessee? Am I going to let Rick Barnes rip my heart out in March, which is like the longest storyline going because Matt Painter finally made it to a Final Four with Zach Edey last year, so he kind of erased those demons. Rick Barnes is next up. Am I really going to do that coming off of Painter finishing the job or going one step further? Let Rick Barnes let me down like the second round in March? Because that's what it feels like it happens the second you believe in Rick Barnes in Tennessee.
Yeah, he is He's been coaching for a very long time. He's had a lot of good basketball players, obviously at Texas. He's had some very good teams, some veteran, tough teams at Tennessee. He's got another good basketball team, so we shall see.
And they defend, and that
Well,
matters
Rick Barnes
in the
teams
NCAA
always.
tournament.
The Rick Barnes teams, and frankly, we were just talking about Bruce Pearl. Those are two coaches that get their players. They motivate their players. They get their players to defend. There's no doubt.
I'll tell you this. Ready? They've both had their issues in the tournament. They've both had their issues when their teams are hyped up. But when we just talk from a pricing point, right, when it comes to Auburn and Tennessee and the national championship, Auburn's the shortest shot of the board, plus 340. Tennessee's 12-1. Is the difference between Auburn and Tennessee so great that there isn't value on Tennessee at 12-1? By the way, you look at the top 6 teams, we've got 4 of them out of the SEC. Auburn, Florida, Alabama, and Tennessee, 12-1 or shorter.
Yes, sir. So conference tournament. Oh, by the way, we did throw it in the Discord. So the Family Bets Discord, we threw up a play that we made tonight. So the college basketball conference tournaments, to me, look, the tournament, specifically, if you can ever get to Vegas, stop by the VSiN studios there at Circa, get a room, bring your boys, bring your girls, and bet your ass off. Because the way the games lay out during the college basketball, that Thursday and Friday of the college basketball tournament is really, it's beyond anything you've experienced. You've got one bet leading into another bet. You take your winnings, you double down. It's tremendous. And by the way, our college basketball coverage over at VSiN.com is beyond compare. So make sure you go check that out. And a lot of big winners over the weekend. You can become a pro right now, VSiN.com/subscribe. But the college basketball tournament, like the conference tournaments, to me, because of the familiarity, I find it a little easier to handicap, obviously, because of the familiarity and the fact that these teams have played each other. I love the conference tourneys.
Well, and there's also the element of some of these teams, nothing that they do in the tournament can drop them far enough where they won't make the big dance or they won't make the national deal. But for some other teams, it's an opportunity to steal a spot from someone who's thought they were going all year long. So because of that, you can get some interesting upsets, especially in these bigger leagues where there are teams that are 1-2 seeds expected to be in the NCAA tournament where they can get upset because they'd rather just rest and focus on winning the whole thing.
So today you've got the A-Sun, and then tomorrow you've got the Sun Belt, the Horizon, and the Patriot Leagues underway as far as the college basketball conference tournaments today. So what we did, we had a game starting at 4 o'clock as we were getting the program started here on VSiN Live. So we threw it up in the Discord, the Family Bets Discord. We bet as a family, people. And if you wanted to tail us, what'd we end up going with there, big guy?
We laid the 4.5 with Florida Gulf Coast over Queens today. Right now they're up 14-9 very early in that one. And by the way, the A-Sun, isn't that how you and your boys used to talk in Detroit? A-Sun.
Okay. All right. It is Monday. Right
now we're getting a good number. Florida Gulf Coast currently laying 6.5. The total up to 149.5 from about 145 earlier today. So we're looking good out of the gates with Florida Gulf Coast, who's just a little bit better than Queens this year. By the way, Queens in North Carolina, not New York, also not eligible for the NCAA tournament this year.
All right, big guy. There's your college basketball landscape. We'll have more on that coming up in the program. We've got the NBA, of course, the NFL. Some interesting news when it comes to that number 1 overall draft pick and some movement in the market with a specific team that could have Dustin Swedelson bitter. So we shall get to that. But as we do on the program, we should start with our media roundup. What's happening? Topics. What are they leading with? Whether on Mad Dog Sports Radio, VSiN, across television. Dustin Swedelson with his media roundup.
All right, let's begin with our friends over at First Take. I do like to check in on what they're doing, and they opened with the NBA today because I don't know if you stayed up for it. I don't know if you were watching the Oscars, Patrick. I know you're a big movie guy. The Lakers beat the Clippers last night. They've now won 12 of 14. So First Take was asking a couple questions. How many in the West are better than the Lakers right now? And would you take the Lakers or the Thunder at this moment?
Well, first off, I don't even know who won anything in the Oscars. I didn't bet it this year. That is a terrible product. You couldn't force me. You couldn't force me to sit down with toothpicks in my eyeballs and watch that, whatever it was. I don't even know who's hosting, to be honest with you.
It was Conan O'Brien. I saw the clips. I think in the world we live in today, you don't have to watch anything live. If anything good happens, it'll make its way onto TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, and you can get the condensed version. Also, I don't think I saw a single movie nominated for an award this year. I don't know what that says about me, and I don't know what that says about movies, but I don't think I saw a single movie.
Well, that's actually bad for you because I did hear that the best picture went to went to like some movie that was about pornography or something.
Lisa Ann's back? Lisa Ann unretired again?
No, but it was. It's a rumor. A lot of nudity, a lot of cheeks. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
So
I might have to check it out now.
You and your boo might want to go see the best picture this year. I don't know what it's called, but I heard it's porn. What else was happening today?
All right, Adam Shine opened the show discussing the Stafford to LA and the domino effect that will not happen. And he said, unfortunately for me as a New York Giants fan, that Joe Shane, Brian Daboll need to go big or go get fired. And he doesn't see Sam Darnold going there, but he made the case why the Giants should sign Aaron Rodgers and simultaneously trade up for the #1 pick to draft a quarterback. And I have to tell you, I don't like Cam Ward. I'm intrigued by Aaron Rodgers, but not because I think the Giants win. I think because the Giants lose and get that much closer to a real franchise quarterback.
More on the Giants coming up here on VSiN Live. What else was happening?
Beadle and Decker followed that. They opened with John Cena's heel turn in WWE. And then,
all right, I love Michelle and Cody next. I don't know anything about wrestling, nor do I care.
All right, Danny Parkins was in for Mad Dog today on Mad Dog Unleashed.
All right, Skip.
Eastern. And then we had Steve Torrey, Mad Dog Daily. He opened with T. Higgins being franchise tagged by the Bengals and Luis Heel dealing with an arm injury for the Yankees and how fans hate just seeing their favorite teams lose players to injuries.
It is a sleepy March 3rd, 2025 in the media sports world, as it were. And Torrey did open with it. We should talk about that. Higgins was franchised for the second straight year, the wide receiver there in Cincinnati. The one thing football players hate more than anything is being franchise tagged. And he just got hit with a tag again. And there was another big move. I believe this came down yesterday, Dustin Swedelson, and a brilliant stroke by the Washington Commanders. This Adam Peters, who runs the Commanders. He was the assistant general manager with John Lynch up in San Francisco. This dude is putting together a team. They have a ton of cash, and they traded for Deebo Samuel. Now, Samuel wanted out, the South Carolina product. He wanted out of San Francisco. A lot of people want to get away from Shanahan, okay? He said he was happy as hell. He was going nuts, and he was getting fat. He was on that, remember when James Harden was trying to force his way out of Houston? So he just decided to get fat. And it was it's like the inverse of when people go on hunger strikes. You just start eating. Deebo was doing that. And so eventually San Francisco got tired of it and the injuries. And he's 29 years old. And they shipped him to the Commanders for a 5th-round draft pick. He has 1 year. This is such a brilliant move by the Commanders. Seriously, think about what happened. He's got 1 year left on his deal, so he's got a show it and prove it year. And Washington gave up nothing to get him, essentially a 5th-round draft pick, which means it's a 50-50 chance. Does that player, probably less than, does that player even make the roster? So you ship a 5th-rounder for a guy that can be super explosive, is going to be super motivated to get another contract. I love the move by the Commanders.
Oh, it's a win-win. And I saw people on the internet complaining about, well, they have to pay him all that money for a year. They have $80 million in cap space to work with. If you have all that to work with, you can take a chance on the upside play that Deebo Samuel ends up being the guy he was a few years ago for San Francisco, because you look at the windows. That Niners window is starting to close. They're about to pay Brock Purdy $50 million a year. That's going to limit the rest of that roster. In fact, there's a chance Brandon Ayuk, who just signed a deal, might get moved also, and they just go cheap at receiver across the board because they drafted Ricky Pearsall a year ago. So I think you look at windows for Deebo Samuel. He leaves one team where the window is closing. He goes to another where it feels like we're on the verge of a 10-year window for the Washington Commanders with Jaden Daniels there. He now gets a true number 2 to line up opposite Terry McLaurin, who is a number 1 receiver at this point in his career. And now there's a little more dynamic to that offense. They can be more creative. Deebo can run the football, can catch the ball, and they still have plenty of money to spend to fix the defense. Washington is doing what they're supposed to do. When you have a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal, you spend all the money you're saving at that position while getting $50 million production. You put that around him, you let him thrive, and you try to win a Super Bowl right away.
I stopped hearing things after you mentioned something, and it was a figure that I have to come back at you. Did you say the San Francisco 49ers are going to pay Brock Purdy $50 million per?
Well, that's what franchise quarterbacks get these days.
He's not getting $50 million.
Oh, no. He's going to get 50.
This is a betting show. Let's go ahead and bet. 50, you think they're going to pay Brock? Brock Purdy's going to get a $50 million contract.
I think the exact figure is like 49 something, right? He just makes a little bit more than whoever got.
Oh, has it already been consummated?
No, but that's how this works. They're going to reward him as their franchise guy and just pay him. You really think they're going to let him walk? You think they're going to go Aaron Rodgers?
No, I think they're going to get a discount for that donk.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think Shanahan sees him as the perfect guy to fit his system. Now, if I was Kyle Shanahan, I would never pay a quarterback. If I believe in my system that much, I would always get someone on the cheap and spend the money everywhere else. But it does feel like Brock Purdy has maximized this quote-unquote Shanahan system in San Francisco so far.
All right, 888 Mad Dog. That'd be fascinating if Brock Purdy's getting paid $50 million. You might be right. I don't know. That I don't know. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. There has been big-time movement in the market for the number 1 overall pick. So we have to start figuring this out. The first domino that fell was Matthew Stafford. Okay? Now you've got reports, and we'll come back and discuss Sam Darnold's potential landing spots. And then because of the Stafford news, teams that may have been interested in Stafford are starting to get a little itchy about the draft and major market movement on one team in particular. We'll come back and shout to Samo, Mike Samich, for this information. We'll come back and discuss that. Hope you had a great weekend. It is VSiN Live. Remember, we are now streaming live on YouTube. You can find the links all over the place at the Rap Radio, at Dustin Swedelson, and the Family Bets Discord, or simply go to YouTube at VSiN Live in YouTube and say what's up. And say happy birthday to your boy. Dustin's not even going to say it. Yesterday, now, do we celebrate when we turn 47? We don't. We allow people to celebrate for you. Yesterday was your boy. I'm a Pisces, emotional as all get out. 47, big guy.
And I've been with you for quite a few of these, and I was saving it for closing tabs. So you would think I forgot about it, and then we can talk about it. So you're killing me here, but happy birthday. You're 47. You still look younger than me. You still look younger than me, which is really obnoxious. And, I mean, when I met you, 2016, so you were 38.
You love playing that game.
No, because now I'm thinking, I'm like, you were 38. That is 2 years younger than I am now, and you were way more mature then than I am right now. But happy birthday. What did you do?
Thank you, buddy.
You and JC go for a walk?
I think anybody that's close to my age will understand what I'm about to say, especially if you're a bit of a recluse. Birthdays at this point have become just making sure that the people that care get taken care of. The FaceTimes with the nieces and nephews, the parents with the phone call. Oh, can you believe it? 47, I remember when. These type of things. Numbers that you don't recognize, you just hit them back with the thumbs up. That's what it's come down. That's what it really has come down to.
The numbers you don't recognize is always a dangerous game to figure out who they are. Want to text back the right name. Yeah, but you got to do something for yourself on your birthday, man. You got to take care of yourself.
I'll tell you what I did.
You watched a documentary about someone who died 100 years ago.
Dude, you know me too well. So I did dry January. This is a long ass open to the show. I do apologize. Spitz, if you're listening, I'll get it back on track. Just let me finish up here. I did dry January all the way like pretty much through February. But I was like, this weekend, I was like, you know what? I took Jeezy for a walk, ended up at a bar, ended up talking to a couple people, ended up having a couple cocktails. On the way home, what'd your boy do? Picked up a bottle of tequila. And you know what? And then I was scrolling through, and then I got done with, the Veda, my sister's daughter, my sister, my mom, the whole crew. Oh, love you too. Crap like that. And then I got done, and I threw on the television, and I almost pulled the trigger on Gene Hackman, Hoosiers. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I literally just couldn't push if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you're seeing the finger. I couldn't push the button. I could not bring myself. You know why? This is me being honest with you. I just don't care. I'm sure the basketball team struggles and then the basketball team wins. You know what? I got nothing. So then you know what I ended up watching? Now, this is a bit of embarrassment. I watched a documentary about Mozart.
So you definitely died over 100 years ago. So that would be true.
100?
What is your opposition to watching some sort of fiction? Like everything doesn't have to be something that really happened in real life that changed the world. You can just shut your brain off and be entertained for 2 hours. Why are you so against that?
Look, here's all I'm going to say to you. I woke up this morning. Wait, you don't drink for a couple months. I woke up this morning with just a hint of a hangover because that tequila was smacking. That tequila was hitting. And so was Mozart. What a miraculous human. I mean, my guy was composing symphonies at the age of 6. Okay, sure. That guy was unbelievable. So I woke up, and you know what I did? I sat for a little bit, and I thought, you're 47. You watched a documentary on Mozart and drank tequila. You got to figure something out.
So what did you figure out?
I had to come to Jesus with myself.
Okay. And what's the end results here of this conversation?
You know what I came up with? I like it. Ride or die. Ride or die. I was gambling my butt off. I was betting on soccer the whole entire time on an iPad. I was betting on the Lakers, who can't freaking lose with Luka, beat the Clippers 2 times in 3 days. And I'm watching Mozart, and I'm pounding the tequila. Happy freaking birthday to me.
Hey, I appreciate you. I love that you love yourself. I love you as a friend, but I would love for you to maybe mix it up just every once in a while, man. Like, mix it up. It's so predictable at this point.
All right. Shout to Kelly Bidlin. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate that. All right. Maybe looking a little worse for the wear today after the tequila, but what are you going to do? When we return, market movement, the number 1 overall draft pick, and this is going to be the big guy's legitimate hell and nightmare. We'll discuss that coming back. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
With the stream and it's going to turn into something that's a little bit more of an interaction. Like, we can write to each other, kind of like the Discord as well. But the YouTube page, I think, will start to become something where it's going to become kind of a community. So if you'd like to give us a birthday present, because Dustin's got a birthday coming up in a little bit as well, if you'd like to maybe go over there at VSiN Live and subscribe and say hello, and we'll try to give you a shout back. Do you have capabilities, Dustin Swedelson? Do you have capabilities of writing people back in the chat?
Yeah, I can just pull up YouTube here on my phone, computer, whatever, and I can read all the comments and reply back. So we can totally interact with everyone out there. At VSiN Live on YouTube is where you find it. You go to the page and you'll see that there is a live video happening. Just click that and you'll see us. That's all you got to do for free.
All right. 888 Mad Dog 888-623-3646. We are thrilled to get that going. Again, we were texting with Tori last week. Just thrilled to be back on the network. Thrilled to be, in unison with VSiN and Mad Dog Sports Radio. I think it's really awesome. So we appreciate it. So I teased you. So this is like, and again, I have no clue why John Metler, who is a very proud owner, and the football giants are giants amongst organizations. Like the richest organization in the world is the Dallas Cowboys. But the Giants aren't very far behind. And that's talking about Barcelona. That's talking about Man U. I mean, we're talking about the heavy hitters across the globe. And the football giants have a storied history. And they right now have become a punchline. And what I'm about to tell you as far as the odds in the market are going to typify that. Because they have a head coach in Brian Daboll who frankly just lacks tact. He is just not, you know what he's not? He's not Giants material. When Daniel Jones, who he re-signed, who he re-upped with, wasn't playing well the following year, what did he do? He belittled him on the sideline. It's not his fault. It's Daniel Jones. Listen, little guy, coach him up. That's your job. Not to sit there and belittle your players on the sideline. It's you know what it is? It's uncouth. And then they got the dude, Joe Shane, not related to Adam, in the front office, who is doing that like Hard Knocks thing, and he's talking to his children about who he should draft. It is beyond, for a professional organization, the Giants, it is beyond embarrassing. And Shane exposed himself as being kind of a donk, like, if we're being completely honest. So they've got a quarterback conundrum in Jersey/New York. And so the rumors, and you look to the market, people, when our good friend Mike Somich joined us last week, the Giants were plus 550, so 5.5 to 1 to draft, to take the number 1 overall pick. They today dropped to plus 110. The Giants are plus 110, so that means there's some intel out there that the New York Football Giants are looking to move up to number 1. If they're looking to move up to number 1 because you have to give up a buttload of assets to do so, you're not drafting any other position but quarterback. So that means the Giants, the Mara family, the Tisch family, are allowing two dudes that aren't going to be here next year, Brian Daboll and Joe Shane. They're allowing them to essentially throw the future of the organization away for Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, who most teams believe aren't even worth the pick in the top 10. That is embarrassing, but 5.5 to 1 to plus 110 is very much significant, Dustin.
Yeah, and Cam Ward's minus 230 to be that number 1 pick. So the market tells you it's going to be him. It's going to be Cam Ward. He's the number 1 quarterback in this class. He has separated himself from the group. And I don't think Cam Ward is the guy who wins you Super Bowls. I think he's the type of quarterback that doesn't get guys fired. He will show growth. He has a lot of intangibles when it comes to playmaking. But you use the word embarrassment. All of these decisions are based off of one single embarrassment. And that's that Saquon Barkley left the Giants and won a Super Bowl with the Eagles in year 1, was offensive player in the year, was in the mix for MVP, and the Giants had to watch all of that happen. So now they're going to get desperate. Now they're going to force their hand, because the reality is the only thing you should be doing as an NFL franchise is becoming one step closer to winning a Super Bowl. and I think one step closer to winning a Super Bowl is actually avoiding this quarterback class at all costs. Drafting none of these guys, doing it the right way, and building towards the next quarterback class that has a guy by the name of Arch Manning in it that you're very familiar with the family, very familiar with the pedigree, and they have three Hall of Famers in their family that have played the position. So if I'm the Giants, I feel like drafting Cam Ward, trading up for that number 1 pick, all you're doing is setting this organization back even further by doing that when you could just do it the right way and just take a year off. But you're right. They can't do that because Shane and Dable, their jobs are on the line. So this is all desperation, and all it's going to do is keep the Giants further from getting this thing right.
Now that we have a video component, I would like to say, Zen, where are you? Why are you not sponsoring VSiN Live? Your boy just popped a 3 milligram wintergreen. Can't stop, won't stop. Let's get some ad rev. Having said that, what's the plan? We know for a fact that the Giants were desperate for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford wasn't moving his family from freaking Los Angeles to Jersey. He and his representation were using other teams as leverage to get a deal done with the Rams, and the Rams came to their senses, became serious last week, and re-upped with Matthew Stafford. Capiche. Good. That's what they should have done. Now, all of a sudden, so you're telling me that the New York Football Giants, their plan was, we're going to go ahead and sign to a fat contract a 37-year-old quarterback. And then that falls through. So the new plan, 5.5 to 1 to plus 110, that's the market right now for the Giants to select number 1 overall. The new plan is scrap the 37-year-old bridge. We're going to move up and draft Cam Ward, who was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. Yeah, he's a nice little player. But I'm just talking about the plan. The plan was 37. Now it's go draft somebody out of college. That's a great unknown. That's embarrassing.
If they draft Cam Ward, if they trade up the assets to draft Cam Ward number 1 overall, I don't care what you say, you have to bring Daboll and Shane back. You have to give them the chance to develop the quarterback. I know it feels like they shouldn't have that right, but they also showed up and they had to use Daniel Jones, and they do deserve a little bit of credit for making the postseason with Daniel Jones. I know a lot went right. It was a lot of one-score games. Saquon Barkley was healthy that year, and the schedule was really manageable. They still made the playoffs with a bad quarterback and then put themselves in the hole by having to pay that quarterback. I do believe John Mara played a role in that, by the way. I think John Mara was making sure that Daniel Jones stayed with the Giants because he liked him. But I think if you're going to trade up for number 1 and you're going to draft a quarterback here, you can't tell a GM and a head coach on the hot seat that you got 1 year to show growth with the rookie or you're fired. That also doesn't seem fair on the other end.
It to me feels like a general manager and a head coach, if that's the case, holding an organization hostage.
Yes.
Because what you just said is 100% right. If Daboll, who has developed a quarterback named Josh Allen in the past, if Daboll gets Cam Ward for a year, the Mara family would be reluctant, I agree, to move on from the tutelage. The continuation, the familiarity would make a lot of sense. That feels like a general manager and a head coach colluding and holding an organization hostage.
So they're no longer making decisions based on the best interest of the New York Giants. They're making decisions based on how do they keep their job for next year. This will not end well for anyone involved because of that.
888 Mad Dog 6. Do you think the Giants would be making a mistake if they give away a boatload of assets to move up to grab Cam Ward? 888-623-3646. Now, another element of this, we know the Titans have wanted to move out of that number 1 overall draft pick for a while. You can just, as you mentioned, you can listen to the way the general manager is talking about the quarterbacks, and immediately you're just like, yeah, that doesn't add up. That's not Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. They don't want either of them. So they're trying to drive up the value of the quarterbacks so they can move back and get more assets. Now, there was a report out today that the Browns, who many rumors were floating that the Browns love Cam Ward, but there's a report out today that the Browns also want to move out of the number 2 overall pick, which would make a lot of sense if you start doing the math. If the Browns were stuck on Ward and they know they're not getting Ward, of course they're going to move down. This is a mess.
Yeah, and what makes it so difficult is what are they going to get? Because everyone pretty much agrees that the quarterback class is not great, especially outside Ward. Ward is the one thing where, look, I'm hard on him. I'm a Miami fan. I just didn't see what everyone else saw this year. I saw a fine college quarterback. He was fine. A little overrated with the stat padding, but fine. I think because after him, it's such a big drop off. You're not getting the normal value at 2 that you would normally get if you're the Cleveland Browns. You're going to be selling for pennies on the dollar. You're not going to be recouping enough assets where you can really rebuild this roster. You might get an additional 4th, an additional 3rd, but I don't know what year those fall in and how that helps you in your window if you're Cleveland right now.
So the Darnold piece is, and this is fascinating because I think this is going to leave Aaron Rodgers in the lurch. I think Rodgers is going to be forced to retire. Because the rumors now, and Darnold without a doubt is the next domino. The rumors now are that the Raiders and who's the other team, big guy, that want Darnold?
The Giants.
So there's rumors the Giants want Darnold, but the market says the Giants want Cam Ward. But Darnold is that next piece. And if it doesn't add up correctly, like Rodgers has already said he wants to play on the West Coast. If it's not the Raiders, I think he's going to be forced to shut it down.
Aaron Rodgers had the worst dating profile bio of all time 2 weeks ago. He said he wants to go to a good team and the team has to want him. That is the lowest of expectations you're asking from your future employer. They have to be good. They have to want him. The problem is there are not a lot of teams right now that are good and that also want Aaron Rodgers. Those things don't align because Aaron Rodgers isn't good anymore. So here's the question that Aaron Rodgers has to ask himself, and based on his actions the last couple of years, I think we all know the answer. Does he love the game of football enough that he's willing to play quarterback for a bad team next year? And is there a bad team willing to give him the keys to the car? Well, he's busy with ayahuasca retreats and doing interviews and media and making documentaries. Based on his actions, I don't know if he loves football enough to just go play a season on a team that's not going to make the playoffs. So I don't see these two things aligning. A good team that wants Aaron Rodgers. So I agree with you. He's very likely retiring this year.
If you're the Giants, what do you do? 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Two options. Try to go grab Darnold off a very good year with Minnesota, or do you give up? And again, you have to give up a ton to move up to number 1. So you're mortgaging the future, move up for Cam Ward. Friday, they were 5.5 to 1 to draft number 1 overall, the Giants. Today, they're plus 110. 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Also, I want to bet this Thunder Rockets game coming up at the top of the hour. So let's get it bumping in the Discord, the family bets Discord, who you got, and our family play in progress. Queens University and Florida Gulf Coast tied up at 30. Come on, Florida Gulf Coast.
Okay, we need to pull away in the second half. That's what we need. They're the better team. They're the better offensive team. They're deeper. They're going to be there in the end. Our guy Ken Pom had them winning by like 6. We laid 4.5. By the way, Ken Pomeroy on the show tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time.
The college basketball expert when it comes to numbers and wagering, Ken Pom, joins us on VSiN Live tomorrow. Speaking of VSiN Live, we're streaming live on YouTube right now at VSiN Live. It is VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Live. Make sure you go check us out. Say hi. I'll hit you back. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher. We're talking about the quarterbacks because the dominoes. Who do we have coming up at the top of the hour?
We've got John Metler talking NBA from covers.com. Jim Root, about an hour and 8 minutes away on college hoops, get us ready for March Madness. And, you know, he's locked in on the million of small conference tournaments that are coming up this week.
All right. So Jim Root and John Metler coming up on the program talking hoops. Of course, right now, college basketball. You've got our Florida Gulf Coast bet up to 28 seconds to play in the first. We'll take it. Duke all over Wake Forest, 32-20, 3:15 to go in the first. So we'll keep you updated there. We want to bet that Thunder Rockets game coming up at the top of the hour. If you got anything, the family bets is the Discord. So the dominoes as far as the quarterbacks. Now, the Darnold, do we have a market on Darnold and where he'll end up with his next team? My feeling right now, and remember, Tom Brady went to, and there was actually a media fight about this. Tom Brady went to Montana and met with Matthew Stafford. Jordan Schultz reported that happened, and obviously they were meeting together. Ian Rappaport, who he must work for the league, because he was like, oh, that was coincidental.
Yeah.
I mean, like, even putting that out there, if Rappaport's been in spats with other media members before, so I think he's a little feisty. I'm not going to get on his bad side, but come back to me. And that's what I would say about our little buddy Ian Rappaport. If you think that you're tweeting and covering a league that is watched only by children and adolescents, and you're going to pretend like Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady ended up in Montana at the same time, just happened to run into each other in the lodge, having a couple of pops. I mean, it's not only insulting and obtuse, it's embarrassing to throw it out like it was coincidental. So anyway, they're at the combine, and they ironically, because Jordan Schultz's dad started Starbucks, they almost threw down at a Starbucks because they were pissed off at each other about the fact that they were refuting one another, which is just hilarious on another level.
Yeah, Schultz, the initial breaking news, Rappaport had to get involved and say that it was by happenstance, and then Jordan Schultz came back the other way, and they wanted to duke it out West Side Story style in a Starbucks. Montana, by the way, if I had to have you guess what section of population it's in, like bottom 10, top 10 of the United States, what would you guess?
Probably last.
43rd in the United States. 43rd. So the odds of Matthew Stafford and Tom Brady both being in the 43rd most populated state in the union at the same time seems like pretty far-fetched that it just happened to happen that way.
Yeah, the fact that you thought I was going to say Montana was the top 10 populated state is a wild play.
Well, I knew the way you were going to go, but it played into my whole thing.
I brought up Tom Brady because I think if Tom Brady wants Sam Darnold, he can have him.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm starting to feel like if Brady wants Darnold and Brady's calling the shots there in Las Vegas, if Brady wants Darnold, Darnold's going to be a Raider. I'm starting to feel that. And now I don't know if you said you had a market on him, but that's where I think Darnold's going to end up a Raider.
Yeah, one of these websites does like hypothetical markets. There's an official one you can bet into that they put together. And right now they have the Vikings at 3-1 as the favorite. The Raiders are second at plus 450. Steelers plus 550. Giants 6-1. The Jets plus 650. Browns plus 850. Colts 10-1. Then the field 10-1. I guess the question is, are the Minnesota Vikings, do they actually want to bring him back? Or is there a price tag where it gets too rich for their blood? Because they did win 15 games this year with Sam Darnold. We still don't know what J.J. McCarthy is. We don't know the status of his health. It'd be year 2 in the Kevin O'Connell system. You would have to think that Sam Darnold could actually build off of what happened a year ago. Is Minnesota willing to just let Darnold walk after 1 year?
It'd be a franchise tag. He'd literally just be used for one more year.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think?
A bridge.
They'd tag him.
But what if he has another awesome year? You contend again for the
but that's the problem. If he does have that, this is the quandary that the Minnesota Vikings have put themselves in by drafting J.J. McCarthy. They wouldn't even want, now, again, take this with a grain of salt. Do they want Darnold to have a good year? Because now they're forced with an asset the general manager uses a number 1 overall pick. You miss on a first rounder, that gets you fired. Now you're forced to sign Darnold to a long-term contract, and what do you got with McCarthy?
Yeah, but the whole goal in this thing is to find a franchise quarterback. If you somehow backed your way into Sam Darnold being your franchise quarterback and you can then spin McCarthy in a trade and still get assets for it, right, you're still ending up in a positive position. They're also in a situation in that North right now where your Lions lost both coordinators. We don't know what Jared Goff's going to look like. The Vikings could very well be the best team in that division next year when you factor in Darnold returning, all the weapons on offense, getting healthier on that O-line, and Brian Flores, who is not getting another head coaching job in the NFL, dialing up an elite defense with all the pieces that work for his system. So I think they have an opportunity here where Darnold could become the guy they wanted McCarthy to do, and that would move their timeline up a few years.
Well, let me ask you a question then. Why haven't they made a decision about Darnold if they know he's the guy? They just saw him.
No, you're right. That would give me some hesitation, but maybe they're letting him see what the market looks like, because at the end of the day, they can just come out and franchise tag him and trade him, franchise tag him and keep him, but they could lock in some sort of assets for Sam Darnold at some point this offseason.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. So Darnold is the next domino, and then Rodgers. But the big story, the betting market, the Giants were 5.5 to 1 on Friday. They're plus 110 to draft number 1 overall. And the rumor is they want Cam Ward. We transition to the NBA. John Metler, Covers.com, joins us next.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Okay. It's 28. I got 20, or sorry, I got 30 and a half and 5.5, but I'll talk about the current numbers so it's more relevant. Right? Why we're going under. I feel like they just sting more when you lose. Like when you miss on an umbrella.
Dustin Swedelson.
this up and going at VSiN Live on YouTube. With that, I got a deal for you. You want to become a VSiN Pro? You can do it for $1.58. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Now, you're going to want to do it now because we've got college basketball conference tournaments underway. You've got the big dance coming up. We'll have a guide. We've got guides. We've got picks daily, many picks. We've got splits. Everything over there, VSiN.com/subscribe. Use the promo code SERIOUS, and you can get it for $1.58 for 30 days. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher, as we do welcome you back. We're going to be joined by our buddy John Metler. He is an NBA analyst over at Covers.com. And I just found out, Mr. Metler, I thought he was everything Lions, but he is a Minnesota Vikings fan. So we were just having the conversation, John. You can help us. The Giants in the market have shifted to plus 110 to draft 1 overall. So after their dalliance with Stafford went awry, it looks like they want Cam Ward now. The next domino is not Aaron Rodgers. The next domino is Sam Darnold, who you just watched pilot your Minnesota Vikings team to a ridiculously surprising season last year under the tutelage of Kevin O'Connell. J.J. McCarthy, who I don't think they should have ever drafted in the first place. That guy stinks. Out of Michigan. However, they're going to want to use him on that rookie deal. So you fixed the mess as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, I feel like if it didn't end the way it did, Darnold's easily coming back for them. But like that, the last final game at Ford Field where he was just missing throws, and then the playoff game against the Rams where he's just missing throws, I think it kind of made them think about the future here. I don't think they want to go back. If you go like years back, remember they went to the NFC Championship with Case Keenum, then they pay Kirk Cousins, and you're giving Kirk Cousins so much money, you couldn't fill out the rest of the roster. I think they're afraid to go back to that. I think this year, I think that was the whole point of J.J. McCarthy. I think it's more about the rookie contract and putting the pressure on Kevin O'Connell that, hey, you are a quarterback whisperer. You can make this work. I don't think they want to throw a bunch of money at Sam Darnold. That being said, I wouldn't be shocked if they also just hit the snooze button and try to franchise tag him and kind of go like one more year with Sam Darnold. But I don't think you're going to see like a 4-year contract for Darnold or anything like that.
But doesn't it feel like the division's kind of wide open right now, just with what the Lions lost in the offseason and also the way they lost that playoff game to Washington? And then Green Bay had a really weird year. Chicago, first year of Ben Johnson, so I don't know what expectations are there. It does feel like if Darnold comes back for your Vikings, John, they have the continuity that it could make sense for them to win this thing next year.
Yeah, I know. But I do think like even if you go like preseason, like their win total was like 7.5. Like Sam Darnold wasn't supposed to be anything. So I think we kind of view JJ McCarthy kind of like how we viewed Sam Darnold coming into this year. I think you almost do just have to put the pressure on Kevin O'Connell. You have the weapons, you have the other pieces. Like they were able to spend on defense because I think they got Jonathan Grenard, a couple other guys, because they didn't have that Cousins contract. I just don't think they want to go back to that. And I think the GM's, like you were saying, if you miss on a first round pick, you're in a lot of trouble. I think the GM's putting his neck on the line here of like, hey, we drafted JJ McCarthy. He's our quarterback. And this is probably the best. This will probably give us the best overall team. I know it's so tough because you just won 15 games with Sam Darnold. And in the NFL, it's like you have a quarterback or you don't, and you don't want to not have one. So it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, they're in a tricky spot. The betting favorite at a couple of shops would be Darnold to end up sticking with the Vikings. My assumption would be a franchise tag. The second betting favorite would be the Raiders. If Tom Brady's interested, I think Darnold's going to listen. So that'll be fascinating to see what happens with the Raiders. And then you start to get to the projects like the Justin Fields and where's Kirk Cousins and is Joe Milton going to be on the move with the Derek Carr? What's his status? So it's now slim pickings after Matthew Stafford has decided to stay here in Los Angeles. John Metler joining us. I wanted to bring this up NBA-wise because for the second time in 3 nights, the Lakers beat the Clippers last night. And frankly, it really wasn't that close. A little push from the Clippers in the fourth. But the Lakers were catching 1.5 at home last night. I thought it was a gift. When Luka plays, they win basketball games. It's that simple.
Yeah, I think they showed you something last night too, because there was no Austin Reeves, and they close out that second quarter with you saw, Luka, LeBron, Jackson Hayes, but then they had Dorian Finney-Smith and Jared Vanderbilt on the court at the same time. And that's like a really like long lineup. Like you think everyone in that lineup's like 6'8", 6'9", 6'7". Like defensively, I think they held the Clippers without a bucket for like 7 minutes. I think the final 7 minutes of like they didn't have a field goal made. So and JJ Redick talked about that lineup, how good it was defensively. That is they're like it's really weird because you traded like a guy who's a defensive player of the year. You swap him for Luka Doncic, and all of a sudden their defense has elevated. So they're starting to get I don't could you imagine if they went like NBA finals or like even just made to the NBA finals in the first year with Luka Doncic, like what that would do to the Dallas Mavericks? That would be insane.
Well, we can
John,
check out the number in the market, Dustin, for the Lakers because it's probably starting to shorten up. They've
it
won
is.
six. They've won six straight. The last time they lost, boys, was against Charlotte when Luka didn't play. So here's the moral of the story: if Luka Doncic is playing basketball, I don't care if you don't have size, a center rotation, you just win basketball games. That's why the nonsense. Anybody talking about, well, in their current form, if Anthony Davis is healthy, they're a better team this year. Bullshit. Oops, almost said it. No, that is not correct because the same team Luka dragged with his fat ass to the finals last year. Luka Doncic makes, I don't care if you have Moses Malone added in his prime to this team, Luka Doncic makes the team better. So anybody floating around the idea the Dallas Mavericks are better this year is high. Now, having said that, the Lakers, I do know that the Clippers didn't score for the last 7 minutes because I had over 113 in the second half, Mr. Metler, and they scored 66 points in the third quarter and absolutely crapped the bed in the fourth. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the to go just to talk more about Luca, like you're saying there, the defense was obviously insane, but I think it's working a lot better offensively for them too than I think people thought it would. Like him beside LeBron James, you're seeing like there's so many like possessions and minutes where LeBron really just doesn't have to do anything, and I don't think he hasn't had that in his career. Like you can come down, you literally can rest for a possession, and Luca just runs the whole offense, or he takes like an ISO, or even like how many easy buckets has I think Luka Doncic has completed more air yards than some like NFL quarterbacks to LeBron James. He's getting up easy buckets, easy buckets. I think they're starting to like very quickly, it's starting to look very, very scary. And LeBron's never really, I think we all thought Anthony Davis would be that person for him and kind of take over as the alpha. It looks like you're actually watching kind of Luka take over and taking that pressure off of LeBron. And now being able to put that effort into the defensive end, which really showing up for the Lakers as well.
Yeah, but it's also just such a perimeter game. Like if your dominant players are on the perimeter versus down in the block, everything is totally different. I know Anthony Davis was a bit of a unicorn where he could do things on the outside, but he's not Luka on the outside. He's not the threat to score from everywhere like Luka, and he doesn't draw that kind of attention. And then for LeBron at this point in his career where he can still do a lot of things, he also gets to save that energy for when it matters. And right now, John, they're tied with the Nuggets. Second shot in the West at plus 650. The Thunder's still your favorite at minus 115, but the way they're constructed, the big knock is the lack of the five, the lack of a center. But really, outside of Hartenstein, Oklahoma City doesn't really have a legit center behind him, and they tend to like to play an up-pace kind of game at times when they're running downhill. If the Thunder get knocked off by someone, by the Lakers, the West becomes wide open. So why not the Lakers? What would be the thing that hinders them from making a run and winning the West this year?
Well, it's a great question. I think we all thought it would be the defense, but you're seeing like their defense has elevated since Anthony Davis is gone. And Jackson Hayes is, I mean, like I was watching last night, like he's playing great drop coverage. You could even see like Luka was shading, kind of like, forcing someone right into Jackson Hayes. It's all the game plan and stuff. And like you're saying, they don't have a ton of size at the five, but they have a lot of size like between all five positions. Like they have four wing guys who are really long. They kind of make up for it in different ways. I honestly think the role players seem like very, very comfortable playing beside LeBron James and Luka Doncic, which is kind of hard to find. Like Dorian Finney-Smith played with Luka in Dallas. He looks very comfortable playing her beside him. Jared Vanderbilt looks like he really fits in. He knows what he's supposed to be doing. Jackson Hayes, again, another player who just looks like he knows what he's supposed to be doing. And those are the scariest teams in the NBA. It's not just so much about talent. It's about how the talent fits together and who has what roles and do people know what roles they're in. And the Lakers are like quickly becoming a team that fits that. And to talk about if they could win the West, I think they could absolutely win the West because Luka is just one of the scariest humans to ever face in a playoff series. So would you be shocked if they took out anyone? I don't think so. I think the other question throw back at you, does JJ Redick have a case for coach of the year?
Okay, Patrick's going to laugh because I've asked everyone this question for the last week because I don't know much about X's and O's. When it comes to basketball, I'm pretty simple. I'll tell people I know what a box and one is just to act like I know what I'm talking about. But the truth is, if I saw it in front of me, I wouldn't be able to identify it. However, what I think JJ's having to do on the fly, John, is pretty remarkable. The entire scheme has changed with the addition of Luka, and they've gotten better. So tell me what you're seeing from JJ Redick and how he can make this a three-man race for coach of the year.
Yeah, my question is, I don't know how voters will evaluate it. Will they see it as a knock that he was like kind of gifted Luka in some way, and now you have the second best team in the West? Or will you see it as like you had to completely switch this on the fly with no practices and go from like a center to a point guard as your next best player or your best player? So it's kind of, I don't know how that will go through like the voting thing. I just think it's what he's doing with all the role players and like the defensive schemes and like the game plans. You can see like the individual game plans from game to game. Like when they were playing the Denver Nuggets, it was a different defensive game plan than how they would play the Clippers, and they're like stunting and the rotations are there. And like those are things that weren't there at the beginning of the year. There was a couple games where you would just see them losing it on the sideline. And now those rotations are on fire. Like they're exactly where they should be. They're in passing lanes. I just think he's making the most of every single player. And even like Dalton Connect, he gets fake traded. Last night he hits 5 threes. Like it just seems like every player is like empowered to be their role. And I think that's a big part of the coaching.
John Metler joining us here at VSiN Live, covers.com NBA analyst. So coach of the year, Kenny Atkinson, Cleveland's a $7 favorite, minus 700. Bickerstaff with the Pistons is 5-1, and JJ Redick is 30-1. I think you're right. I think the perception, podcast host with LeBron James, chosen by LeBron James, gifted Luka. I don't think he's going to win it. But, I mean, I don't disagree that he's doing a hell of a job. But here's the bottom line when it comes down to Luka. Like, if you want to call Anthony Davis a generational talent, absolutely. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Here's the difference. Crazily enough, when you add a transcendent player, and there's 5 dudes on the court at one time, he can drag their ass to a finals. And that's the LeBron James. John brought it up. The LeBron James angle is fascinating because LeBron looks completely energized. They've got their own secret handshake. He's chilling because Luka does so much. Luka's one of the better passers you're ever going to see. He rebounds his ass off. I mean, LeBron's in the best spot ever. This is probably at 40, the best spot LeBron has been in with a teammate in his career.
Yeah, I've always been shocked. You kind of thought like he would be that secondary piece so much sooner in his career. Like, hey, where's the help for him? And now it's like I said, I think they thought Anthony Davis would be that guy, but LeBron always had to like run the perimeter game and get the ball to Anthony Davis, where now it's like Luka's running the perimeter game, and like you don't need like LeBron doesn't need to help him every single possession. It's not like there's a grenade, come get it, LeBron. We need someone to take a shot. Like Luka's running it, and you can just see it. And you can see like you said, the secret handshake, like the communication on the court. Like Luka was saying something to Jackson Hayes last night, and then LeBron came over to explain it, and you could see like Luka and LeBron kind of dapped each other up after, like, hey, like coach this guy's up. They're like, from like a basketball IQ standpoint, it feels like someone's on the same page as LeBron James, which I feel like he's had a hard time in his career with kind of meshing on that front.
I think that's a great point. I'm looking at the standings right now, John. Let's play this stupid game. I'm going to take the 3 worst teams in the NBA, the Hornets, the Wizards, and the Jazz, as constructed as is. If you add Luka to those 3 teams, do 2 of them make the playoffs? Do all 3? Does one? Like, I believe Luka is so special, he could carry the Washington Wizards, who are 11-48, into the play-in.
I don't know about that. But, John, I'm going to save you here because that's the worst question officially ever been asked in the history.
Oh, stop.
How do you – that's such a hypothetical. How – Luka's going to drag Washington to the postseason now, big guy? Take a break. The Jazz, Dustin did bring them up. They're one of the worst teams in basketball. They're tanking. And tonight, they've got the Pistons in town. The Pistons laying 11. Are you doing anything with the game? What's your take on the Jazz?
Oh, the Jazz, we're entering that time of the season, right, where it's like tanking season. The Jazz, so I was looking at this last night. You're trying to like price it out, and the Jazz, they're full on taking. They're just guys are out for rest, and you kind of have to put the guys like establish the minutes of is he playing? Is he playing? Do I price it with marking in? Do I price it with marking out? And you kind of got to go through. I thought last night it was 10.5, and I was like, okay, even if a couple of these guys play, this is a good number on the Jazz. If everyone's in, this should definitely not be 10.5. And then what did the Jazz do? They come out and basically rule everyone out once again. I think Colin Sexton's the only guy playing. So 10.5, 11 is probably the accurate number with the guys who are playing. As you go down the stretch here, like a team like the Jazz or the Wizards, if you're betting the spreads on them, just be aware that they're really going to probably dial back minutes, pull guys out. If you're going to hit an edge on it, make sure your edge is like really big where you can kind of cover your bases that if they do decide to tank. The other thing too is like you're pricing that with the idea that like the coach is going to make good lineups throughout the game, which I'm not even sure the Jazz will do either, right? So it's like, hey, not only do I need this guy to play, but are they going to put correct rotations out there in the fourth quarter? And I don't know if they're going to do that either. So it's kind of that tricky point of the season.
Yeah, when they're missing so many guys, it gets out of hand early, then you really have no idea how like the fourth quarter is playing out. So totals, I don't even know what you do with totals at that point. I do want to ask you about a couple plays you have in the same game coming up here. 8:30 on the East Coast. It's Sacramento at Dallas, where I didn't realize this till you pointed out. What an inflated number on Kyrie Irving. What are we doing with his points total tonight?
Yeah, I played this under 30.5. It's gone down to, you're looking at probably about 29.5 heavy juice, 28.5, like minus 115 in that range. I would still play at 28.5, 27.5. I would back off. This is like Kyrie Irving's reaching that point, and you see it a lot with the New York Knicks players where he starts playing heavy minutes. He's playing like 38 to 40 minutes a night here since the Luka trade. And then he starts to get priced like that. And like once a player is getting priced like that, it happens to the Knicks players all the time. There's really no room for the minutes to go up. They can basically only go down. Like nobody's playing more, 35 minutes is a normal game for someone. So it's not out of the question that he just drops down to 35 and this total's way off. This is being priced like he needs to play 39 minutes. For the Sacramento Kings, I just feel like there's other points that like the Mavericks could attack. I think Max Christie, Najee Marshall, all these secondary guys could get involved because like you want to go after a Zach LaVine, you want to go after a Malik Monk, and he should draw Keon Ellis or Keegan Murray. And those are the two best defenders. Usually one of them's on the court at the same time. So I feel like Kyrie Irving will have like the worst matchup where his teammates will have really, really good matchups. I think his total's just too high.
Boys, should we be betting the Kings tonight? Haven't they won a bunch in a row? And the Mavs are without Lively, without Gafford, without Davis. What's the number on that right now? You got it, Dustin?
Yeah, right now we've got Sacramento laying 2. Total's 232. No Sabonis for Sacramento, by the way.
Oof. Never mind. I retract.
Yeah, I don't know who else is there. DeMar, that's it.
Hamstring,
Zach
right?
LaVine.
For Sabonis, is that a hamstring?
Sabonis, yep, hamstring listed as out last night, so they knew he was not playing in this one. I mean, you have another prop bet, though, in this game, right, on the Kings, John?
Yeah, I took DeMar DeRozan under assists, under 5.5. You can find 4.5 plus money. Yeah, I'd play that as well for the 4.5. And it is kind of playing off of Sabonis being out. I think they kind of elevated all the assist totals for the Kings players to make up for that. I just don't think DeRozan. I mean, this is a guy, a month ago I was sweating over 2.5. Now you're sitting this at 4.5, 5.5. I think that's too high for just DeRozan in general. And once again, I think there's other matchups. PJ Washington's out. Najee Marshall should get the start and guard DeRozan. He's still a really good defender, so it's not like DeRozan has a great matchup. And they should want to attack Kyrie Irving on the defensive end. So I think Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, I think that's where the assists will go. So I went under on DeMar DeRozan.
John Metler, covers.com NBA analyst. He joins us on Mondays talking NBA hoops. And a bit of a trader, a Tigers fan, a Pistons fan. And I realized, obviously the Lions play in Detroit. Why did we end up a Minnesota Vikings fan? Randall Cunningham?
No, I'm not that old. Randy Moss.
Not that old. Randy Moss. All right. I'll let it slide. John Metler. John, great stuff, man. Enjoy the basketball tonight. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Good luck with your bets, everyone.
Okay. Thank you very much. So again, the plays tonight, DeRozan under 5.5 dimes. Kyrie Irving, he got 30.5. It's a great number. But he did suggest it, down to 28.5. And the Pistons, I feel like he was saying he's comfortable laying it because the Jazz right now are tanking. 8-8, Mad Dog 6. Go ahead.
Yeah, just an update on that. Clarkson's out, Markkanen out, Collins is doubtful. That is literally their 3 best offensive weapons. Then you have Colin Sexton as questionable. Like, name a Jazz player after that. Keontae George and who? That's all I know at that point. You're going deep on the bench to figure out who's playing against the Pistons. This one was 9.5 last night, and now I believe it's up to 11.5 right now, 10.5.
Yeah, it's a. But by the way, yesterday, so you were clowning a little bit, but imagine I was counting that second half, Cash. The total for the Clippers-Lakers second half was 113. You can go ahead and look at the box. I believe they scored 66 in the third.
Yeah, so it was 67 in the third. Clippers won that quarter 34-33, and then the fourth quarter, the Lakers only scored 19 points. So it was 25-19 in the fourth. Honestly, Lakers were up huge at the half, so I didn't even watch the third quarter. I thought that thing was over. It ends up being a 6-point game. That's a bad one. Because when you're pacing properly, it hurts. It hurts so bad because the money's there. It's coming in. We just have to keep doing what we're doing. A 25-19 fourth quarter, that is brutal.
And again, I'm going to say this. I'm going to start fighting people if they come on the show. And Rob did an awesome job. Rob Perez, SiriusXM NBA Radio. But I think he was one of the ones because since the trade, what's been happening is people trying to justify it. And as a lifelong contrarian, people are trying to zag while everybody's zigging about this trade. It's the worst trade in the history of sports. There's no way around it. I can't believe it was allowed to go through. And the concept of, long term, Luka's 25 effing years old. He was 23 in a Western Conference final 2 years ago and 24 when he dragged them to the NBA finals. Let me just finish this thought. So the concept that all of a sudden this year in a vacuum, if Anthony Davis is healthy, they're a better team, is legitimately asinine because they have plenty of size. So you know what would help a team with plenty of size? One of the transcendent perimeter players of all time. It's madness.
They traded him because of issues that don't exist yet. The issues are we think he's out of shape and doesn't take care of his body. Therefore, at some point, it will catch up with him. But right now, if your window is to win right now, which is what I thought it was, yet somehow now the narrative is by making that trade for Anthony Davis, the window is even more now just because of his age.
But hold on. And another thing, dude, they calling him immature. You know what I just learned? He's married with a kid.
Hold on. He's been with his wife since like middle school. He's more mature than
He's the
everyone
most mature person in the NBA.
He's the most mature person you and I would ever know.
25 married with a child? Stop.
Yeah. No. By the way, no issues off the course. He likes to smoke some hookah and drink beers, I guess. That's also Mavs propaganda. Here's my biggest issue with the whole thing. You traded him for an issue that has not popped up yet to hold your organization back. So if he's able to perform and carry a group of average players in Kyrie Irving, who's not who he used to be, by the way, all the way to the NBA Finals, then there's no reason to give up on him right now when he's in his prime. You want to talk about it when it starts to show at 28, 29, 30, or maybe give him a chance to change his conditioning. But right now, there are no issues with Luka Doncic. He's still a top 5 player in the game.
The kid's reputation, calling him fat, saying that he's drunk, saying that he had a bad attitude, it's a decision by that organization. No. That's what I'll say.
And it's kind of ironic because he's falling upward. So he's going to a better organization in a better city that wants to compete for championships that other stars want to join. And on top of it, gets to play with LeBron James right now, and now they're going to build this entire thing around Luka Doncic. So the irony is they trash him on the way out and just kind of drop him off to the Lakers, yet everything in his career and life is just going to get progressively better from here on out.
888-623-3646. We're talking about the Lakers in the postseason, and here's our buddy Tony in Detroit, VSiN Live. What's up, Tony?
Patrick, my friend, before I get to the Lakers, I'd like to wish you a happy 47th from here in the Motor City, brother.
I think you're the same age as me, no?
Patrick, I will be 48 at the end of April, and 5 days after that, I'll be attending my oldest son's college graduation.
we are leading very different lives, Tony.
Hey, 2 in college and 1 in elementary school, man. I'm rolling here in the team.
Ooh.
But,
damn.
yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And, hey, I know our paths have crossed there on them establishments in 8 Mile. You were talking the other night, end of last week, about the 8 Mile strip there. And, Dustin, you got no clue. Me and Patrick know what 8 Mile means. The rest of the nation thinks it's an Eminem movie. It ain't an Eminem movie, bro.
It's some seedy-ass strip clubs. Yeah, it is.
oh, man, little tycoons, little players. I know you know
Tycoons. I have a story that I can't tell on the air about tycoons. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tony.
I got a couple of tycoons I can't tell you here either, but we'll let that end there. But, hey, on the lake, I'm not a conspiracy guy or anything, but I just keep thinking that the NBA and Adam Silver, with everything that's going on, somehow worked out this deal, and they want nothing more than Lakers-Celtics finals to try to just keep, you got your superstar in LeBron who won't go away, and he's still great. He shouldn't go away. I don't mean it that way. And you got your young superstar Luka, and you got your Celtics who ain't going anywhere anytime soon. But I just got this feeling here in the NBA that we get to June, the NBA's nightmare is going to be Oklahoma City, Cleveland in the finals, where they seem like they've done all this. But the Lakers look unbelievable, and it's going to be a tough match. I'm excited for the Western Conference. I'd like to see them up against OKC, the young team, more legs. We'll see how it works in the playoffs. But the trade so far is lopsided. It's unbelievable for LA. As much as I like you, Patrick, I can't stand them Lakers. But happy birthday, bro! From the
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. But Tony knows I love him, but when somebody starts this way, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you're about to get hit with a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, it's always more fun than reality. I mean, conspiracy theories are way more fun than the life we're living, so I understand everyone getting into them.
But you said that he fell up. It's like you're 100% right. So the Dallas Mavericks were like, "We hate you, Luka. Here's the best situation in the world."
Yeah. And they also said, we're not going to build around you the way you want. The Lakers are going to do – that's the best part about this for Luka, is he's now in charge of the Lakers. He gets to fill the LeBron role of making all the calls, and they're going to do whatever Luka wants for the next 10 years. It's a beautiful thing for him.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. Can you give me that number again? I'm now curious to see what people think about the Lakers. Because, as I said, 6 straight. And the last time they lost was to Charlotte, and Luka didn't play. So, moral of the story, Luka plays, they win.
Okay, they're 15-1 to win the title. In the West, they are tied with Denver for the second shot on the board. OKC -115, then the Lakers and Nuggets, plus 650 apiece. I think that's interesting. Also should note, Lakers odds have shortened up 15-1 to win the title. So have the Warriors, by the way, after Steph has gone off a few games in a row now. Warriors now your 5th shot on the board at 15-1. That's an interesting development in the betting market.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. So obviously not the best number because you could have got a longer number when Luka was traded immediately, but still worth taking a shot on the Lakers. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
Went to Victory Lane yesterday. Dustin knows, at Circuit of Americas in Austin, Texas, for his second NASCAR Cup Series win of 2025. We're reacting to a thrilling road course race right now on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90, and the SiriusXM app. Donk. Dustin Swedelson. I'm Patrick Meagher as we welcome you back. Want to welcome everybody that came over from the Family Bets Discord into our YouTube live stream at VSiN Live on YouTube. I don't know why I keep on saying at. Don't you just type in VSiN Live on YouTube?
That's a great question. I believe the handle is at VSiN Live if you do it that way, but you can just search VSiN and it'll pop up for you. I mean, YouTube's smarter than we are. It knows what we're thinking. Trust me, when I watch a video, sometimes I get caught and I'm like 3 videos later realizing I've clicked nothing. It just automatically went into a video I liked.
I know.
My day is gone.
They're like, don't worry, bro. We're in your brain.
Yeah, we know what you're into these days.
We'll take it from
it's
here.
Weird. It's weird stuff. A lot of toenail clipping videos.
That's disgusting. You mentioned not just the Lakers shortening up out west, but the Warriors. So where are the Warriors sitting right now?
Yeah, they're down to 15-1, and they've all shortened up compared to Denver. Denver was 15-1. They're now 16-1, so not a big move there. But you're looking at a market now in the West that has it OKC number 1 at -115, the Lakers plus 650 with the Nuggets at plus 650. Then you go Warriors plus 750, and everything after that is 18-1 or greater, starting with the Grizzlies. So I think the West could really be fascinating if, and it's a big if, I know that. I know everyone we talk to loves the Thunder. You love the Thunder. I may end up looking like an idiot for wanting to fade Oklahoma City right now. But if someone is a bad matchup for them in the playoffs and knocks them off, the West does become wide freaking open.
Well, speaking of which, VSiN Live, 888 Mad Dog 6, our buddy Ben in Maryland wants to talk Warriors. Hi, Ben. What's going on?
Benjamin?
Ben
Hameen.
Right. He go.
Bye.
Here's what I will say about the Warriors. If you're betting the Warriors, and Steph has been insane, if you're betting the Warriors at this point, you're trusting in a big spot Draymond freaking Green and Jimmy Butler. Good luck with that. I'm not.
Yeah. I bet 35-1 a couple weeks ago on the show because you peer pressured me to do it, and I love that number. 15-1 is a different story. I mean, that's literally cut in half. That I don't know if I could get there. 750 to win the West. Man, things have to go right for a team that's led by a couple older guys. You're relying on older guys end of the year. Now, in fairness, Jimmy Butler doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires this season because he refused to play for the Heat for a long time. So that could be beneficial to them. But looking at Golden State, they still have to get Kuminga back. If you don't get Kuminga back, it's not happening. Kuminga being consistent and a go-to guy for them when it matters on the defensive and offensive end is going to be huge. But if Kuminga isn't playing like himself or he's not at 100%, it's all irrelevant.
By the way, our Florida Gulf Coast bet, all right, it's a 3-point game right now, 11:02 to play. We posted that in the Family Bets Discord. We're going to need a little bit of a push here from Florida Gulf Coast. That's just that's factual, my friend. By the way, we're going to be betting nonstop conference tournament basketball.
Oh, you want to go over the schedule?
Yeah, make sure you join the Family Bets Discord because that's where everybody's getting down what they're playing. Even Samich posted some horse racing tips in there today, which we appreciate. Shout out to Lily as well, his daughter. Yeah, but if you want to bet the conference tournaments with us, you can find it in the Discord. Go ahead.
Also, VSiN.com, Adam Burke, Zach Cohen, the whole team, Steve Mackinnon, our numbers guy, they all have breakdowns of all of these conference tournaments. So if you're like, hold on, the Horizon League starts on Tuesday. I know nothing about the Horizon League. Don't worry. VSiN.com has a preview of each of these conference tournaments because if we're being honest, none of us have watched these teams all season long.
Factual.
Tomorrow, the A-Sun continues, and then we add Horizon, Patriot, and Sunbelt. Wednesday, we add the Big South, Northeast, Ohio Valley, and Summit. Thursday, we add the Missouri Valley and West Coast. Friday, it's CAA and Southern. And then the weekend, we have a bunch more added to the mix. Then next week, it gets hot and heavy with the big conferences, the Power Fours. So this thing's full boat now. Like we are in the midst of March Madness starting right now.
I'm just taking a look to see what the number is for the Pistons tonight. It's 10.5.
It's a big one.
You know what I'm doing? I'm betting the Kings. Screw them. Screw the Mavs. I'm out on the Mavs. If we can get this in time. Let's go.
Let's see. 95% of the money on just 65% of the bets at Circa is laying it with the Kings. So the money's on your side there. That is a big discrepancy. And then for your Pistons play, a little bit of money looking like coming in on the Jazz plus 11 at home, 43% of the money on just 35% of the bets, those betting splits over at VSiN.com.
Here's my question. Where are my degenerates at? Like, why am I the only one betting my balls off people? Nonstop.
We're currently sweating a Desmond Bain prop because you know what we do on this show.
Yeah, bet $32. You need to go heavy. And your girlfriend's not listening. You don't have to worry about it.
I mean, I have an expensive life, and now I've added another expensive life to my expensive life, Patrick. I have a lot of vices. That's the issue. So we have to manage them.
I understand. The Friday night Cleveland win. I wanted to bring this up. Cleveland is effing legit.
Oh, no. DeAndre
that team, that team right now, they should be favored. I'm guessing they are. They should be favored over Boston in the East because it was like 25-2, and you saw the video of Tatum saying, "Get the F out of here." That is Tatum. He hears it all. People talking trash about he has no personality. He's not tough. So all of a sudden he acts tough, and it blows up in his face. Mitchell went off. The Cavs came all the way back and won in Boston on Friday. That's a huge win for the Cavs.
Okay, the Celtics are minus 125 to win the East. You can still get plus 210 on the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you're just going to go vibes, and it's more than just that one game, if you're going to go vibes, the vibes on the entire season for the Boston Celtics compared to the vibes of the Cavaliers and the different styles they're built to play in and win, they're just way more fun. They're way more exciting. And I don't care what you say about Boston's record. They are sleepwalking through the regular season. And the hope is, as someone who's annoyed by that team, the team that grinded the way Cleveland did all regular season long, it'll pay off for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're tremendous. That Cavs team. Atkinson, he's going to win. He's $7 favorite. Atkinson is going to win Coach of the Year. There's still time, though. Like, if this Pistons run continues, Bickerstaff's in the mix. The problem with the Pistons is we backed them on Friday, and they got boat raced by Denver on the second half of back-to-back.
Yeah, that was a weird spot. I didn't know what to make of Denver in that back-to-back, but I did like the Pistons play. Bickerstaff's still plus 550 in the Coach of the Year market. And by the way, there's a correlation to Bickerstaff because Cunningham, your boy Cade, when it comes to most improved player, he is it's off the board, but he was minus 600 earlier today. So he's locked up that award. He's going to win most improved player. Why do you win most improved player? A coach came in and unlocked his potential, and that's what Cade's become. By the way, I am on Cade over 9.5 assists tonight, taking on the Jazz. Jazz stink against point guards, defending them, dishing the ball around. I think it's a big night for Cade Cunningham. They allow the second most assists to point guards. 9.5 is way too low.
9.5. Anytime I see 9.5 on Cade, I'm with you. I fire. VSiN Live, 888-MAD-DOG-6, 888-623-3646. If you don't know what's happening in college hoops, coming up at the top of the hour, Jim Root's going to join from what's the name? Yeah, 3-Man Weave. The kid's crazy. He knows everything about college hoops, so we'll get you set up with a little primer going into the conference tournaments. But right now, we're wide open with you. We say hi to Tommy in San Diego. Hey, Tommy.
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you doing?
Good, Tommy. What's going on?
Hey, let's talk about Friday if we could. I don't mean to just swallow up your time, but you brought it up and it reminded me of something. So I've been a Celtics fan for a long, long time. So that game, we go out 22-3 lead. There is I don't give a shit what kind of league you're in. I don't care. NBA, you're a professional basketball player. No way in college does that ever happen as a comeback. So when you say that, there's no way in the NBA should that ever happen. I don't know what transpires for that to happen, but it happens often where somebody says, oh, it's the NBA, don't worry, they'll go on a run. I'm actually tired of hearing all that BS because they shouldn't go on a run because you should play defense. then you should keep the pressure on. There's no way that should have ever happened whatsoever for that.
Now, they were without Porzingis, so if you're a Celtics fan like you are, Tommy, I guess that can be the excuse, but where are you right now overall on the Celtics team?
I kind of feel the same way Dustin was kind of saying, a little bit like they are sleepwalking through, and then, there's more exciting teams because they're, I don't know what it is, the chemistry and whatnot that you talk about, right? The fans are a little bit louder. But I tell you what, you go into Boston and the fans are nuts. Our team is a little myopic, I guess, is what a word I guess I would use. They just kind of just like, ho-hum, going through here we are, going through the day or the motions, per se. And, we're going to get to the playoffs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they're the most well, Oklahoma City's pretty talented as well, but Boston's still the most talented team. They shoot a ton of threes. They run no set offense. They just hunt everybody. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see once they get to the postseason if they ratchet up the intensity. What do you got for the college basketball?
Well, before we get to that, can I just ask a question or bring something up? Okay, so I've been listening since you came back. I called you right away, told you, hey, man, welcome back. It's great to hear you, all those things. Anyway, so talking to my friends about it, I listened to VSiN before they took it off, and now it's back on. Just listening to all the analytics and everything else. So I got a couple friends that are, I would call them haters, that say, dude, you're listening to a radio station that talks about Vegas betting. They're sending you losers. I have not taken any kind of tally whatsoever, but I have over this weekend listening. I did take a bet on Saturday because I'd already made my morning bets. And then I was at the gym and a guy says, I like Kansas, -2 first half. And I like George Mason, blah, blah, blah. I said, all right, I wasn't betting on those two, but I'm a degenerate. Let's throw some money on it. Why not?
Yeah.
So I do. I throw a couple $100 parlay into it. I'm thinking, fuck, this guy knows what he's talking. Oh, sorry about that. This guy knows what he's talking about. Of course. Well, both games it's a blowout the opposite way, And so my friends start laughing at me. I mean, you guys do not work for Vegas, right? I mean, in any way, shape, or form, even though you're working at casinos.
No, we don't work for Vegas at all. No, we're completely independent of the casinos. There's no affiliation inside a casino, yes, but there's no affiliation with the book at all. No,
I give them plenty of my money as well, by the way.
Okay. All right, so there, I have it on record. Now I can play it back to them. So as far as March Madness goes, every year for the last 25 years, the same group of guys, we all go to Vegas. So really excited about what's coming up. This year is phenomenal at not knowing who it is. So pre-Vegas, we do an auction. We auction off every team, and it starts at $5, and then that's on the opening bid for $5 on the 64th team. The top teams go for about $5 to $10 grand, depending on who it is. But regardless of that, we auction every team, and then this group of guys, about 6 of us out of about 30 that do the auction go. So this year is so wide open, it's nuts. Like, I have a couple of sleepers that I like and a couple of good analytics that you choose the teams that don't have to travel far if you can get those teams. There's a home team advantage. I think you were talking about it last week, Dustin. So those are going to be some great things to look on. And this year, if I'm going to pick a winner, I don't know, man. I'm feeling like Duke. I'm feeling Duke again, man.
So, Tommy, appreciate it.
What a guy.
He's a degenerate. And you're like the rest of us, dude. If I'm at the gym and some random donk gives me a couple of plays, I tell him. He must have a tingle.
No, but also, what if he's right and you find out you just happen to hear the sharpest person ever go on that special heater? I want to be along for that ride.
Samich said those were his picks. He went 0-2 on Saturday and 2-0 on Sunday in college basketball.
Hey, it's a stand-up guy. It's a stand-up guy.
Hey, Samo Bomb. That's 50. Hey, it's 50-50.
Oh, is it ever?
I
would say right now, VSiN.com, I'm 3-0 or 2-0 on the night, trending towards 3-0, and 2 more yet to tip. Just want to point that out.
Okay. That's good. Congratulations. That'll get you far. Yep. No, you did a good job, man. I appreciate it. What do you got?
Bets-wise coming up, I mentioned the Cade play. We're also on, you know what, this one might have just got, the Mavs game just start with Sacramento. Max Christie over 21.5 PRA.
All right, 888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. We're going to carry the NBA to the top. We did open with the quarterbacks. Look, just macro, like kind of zooming out on this, the Darnold piece is next. And then once that happens, you're going to have the thirsty-ass, sorry, Lily, you're going to have the thirsty teams starting to reach for a Fields. I think we can do something with him. I'm going to say this about Fields. Arthur Smith had him. I don't know if there's a coach, the way that he calls an offense with running the football, I don't know if there's somebody that was more prepared to do something with Justin Fields, and he wanted out of the Fields business. Capiche?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot missing, but there's also a lot of special skills, and I think we're all watching Justin Fields wondering where's that guy that was at Ohio State who could push the ball vertically downfield, but it just doesn't fit the NFL system. The question I have when it comes to the Darnold thing, if he's not back in Minnesota, I think it's obvious Minnesota brings in another veteran quarterback, similar to how they did with Darnold, a reclamation project. And I'm curious, is there another guy out there that Kevin O'Connell could bring in and make the playoffs with if J.J. McCarthy's not ready? They had Daniel Jones in there. You mentioned Fields, Winston. Like, is there a veteran out there that Kevin O'Connell can turn chicken you-know-what into chicken salad with?
888-623-3646, VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
YouTube, VSiN Live on YouTube. We welcome you in and appreciate your patronage over there. We're trying to fix my shot. Apparently the light's off. They got to get me a monitor in the back, but we're going to have it figured out. I got one of those rings coming. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
You know how the kids, the TikToking.
Yeah, I learned about it because OnlyFans models have them. So you now match some of my favorite OnlyFans models that I no longer subscribe to, by the way, in case my girlfriend is listening.
Is that a fact? Like you don't subscribe anymore?
Yeah,
that was a pregnant pause.
Yeah, no, there was a combination of things. One, getting a girlfriend. Two, doing a self-audit of the money spent on that website when, like we mentioned earlier, have many vices, gambling, eating, drinking, all of those things. It was just adding up to a lot of stuff that I only watched one time.
How would the conversation go if you were still subscribed to, it's just adult content? How would that go over?
Probably better than the conversation that went earlier today when I wanted congratulations for putting the dishes away. And when she went to grab one of the dishes I put away, had to point out to me that there was still water in the bowls that I put away, and that was a no-no. So I think the dish conversation was actually worse than any OnlyFans conversation.
I mean, who's putting dishes away with water in them?
I don't notice things. I thought it was dry. I thought I was good, and I'm sitting there like begging for credit like a puppy who did something right. Like I just want a reward. Look, I did an adult thing, and then I did the adult thing wrong. So that didn't go over well. She's finding out the hard way that she's going to have to train me and turn me into adult. You did a lot of training on the inside. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work to be done still on the outside of like just existing and doing things that adults do day in and day out.
All I can say is she's a saint. We'll just put it that way.
Look, there's a reason she believes in a higher power because it's the only way you would be with me if you believed in one.
Florida Gulf Coast, by the way, they were just tied at 62. Queens University just hit 4 in a row, up 66-62.
All right, we got time. We got 2.5 minutes to go. You know what we need? We need overtime because overtime's where dogs go to die. Not literally, if Lily is listening, dogs don't literally die in overtime.
The Rockets and Thunder, that's actually a very interesting game tonight at the Thunder. And it's just a 3-point game with the Thunder up 52-49. This Rockets team is probably a year early, but they're good.
Well, they defend. Udoka is still like the weirdest thing ever, how it went down in Boston. But like, I don't know. He's got guys that fit what he wants to do. I know Van Vliet's out tonight, but he's the veteran. He's won a title. He's a gritty player. Dylan Brooks brings that energy. And they've hit on a lot of young guys who can get buckets. So I agree. Fascinating team to watch.
By the way, good game, Wake Forest. Duke's up 86-49. Duke going to be dangerous. How dangerous? Our next guest, Jim Root, can help us with that. College Hoops next.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
So Jim, I'll properly introduce Jim. By the way, we're streaming live now on YouTube, VSiN, Mad Dog Sports Radio. Just look up VSiN Live. Before I properly introduce Mr. Root, just if somebody wants to get a play and maybe they can get it in under the wire here, Kansas, Houston. Houston's 9.5. Do you have thoughts on that matchup tonight?
It's a little bit like the Duke Wake Forest game where I look at it and my gut says it's high, but I don't want to fade these like juggernaut teams right now. Houston, Duke, Auburn. I don't really have a ton of desire to get in the way, although that does conflict with one of my bets for tomorrow. But as big favorites, I don't want to get in the way. Houston and Kansas is kind of broken right now.
Yeah, Kansas. Jim Root joining us. Okay, I can officially slow down. 3-man weave and the Athletic College basketball writer. You can find Jim at Second Chance Points. He's our college basketball insider. Thrilled to have him, and it's that time of the year with conference tournaments starting up. But we should mention the game on in the background there, which you're sweating a total, and that is Duke is hosting Wake Forest. Duke's up 91-51. Simply asking you, how good is this Duke team?
You can make a statistical argument that they're one of the best teams ever. I mean, they're the second highest rated team in Ken Palm's adjusted efficiency margin the last 30 years almost. The only team better is 1999 Duke. They're up there with 2015 Kentucky that entered the Final Four undefeated. 2021 Gonzaga that entered the national title game undefeated. That's how impressive they've been. Now, I do think you can punch a couple tiny little holes because they've been so dominant and not had to play many close games. And the few games that were close, they had some shaky execution late. Clemson, Kansas earlier in the year. And so maybe when they get into a postseason late in the tournament, I don't think anyone's going to touch them in the first 2 or 3 rounds. But maybe later in the tournament when they have to play somebody as good as them, a Florida, a Houston, an Auburn, can they execute down the stretch? Can they get close buckets? Because they just haven't had to experience that all that often this year. So that's something that I think you can, if you're a Duke hater, you can maybe cling to as the hope for them going down. But I can't see them losing before the Elite Eight and likely not before the Final Four.
And obviously, Jim, Cooper flags the story, 28, 8, and 7 tonight. I mean, it's just casual for him at this point. But if you're looking at Duke, outside of Cooper Flag, who jumps out to you as a key piece being that wingman for him along the ride for them to make a Final Four run?
I think it's probably Con Knippel, the other freshman. He's been their best shot maker, and sometimes he's been actually pretty good as a creator as well, playmaking off the bounce. I think they tried to use him there late in I want to say it was the end of the Kansas game, where they used him and tried to go to him down the stretch, and it didn't quite work out, but he has been pretty good with the ball in his hands. The other one, I guess, is Tyrese Proctor, because of the guys on the team, he's the one that's been in the big moments. He's played in the Sweet 16 last year against Houston, and then NC State in the Elite Eight. He's been on a bigger stage. Mason Gillis kind of has, but he's more of a role player. Like even somebody like Sion James, even though he's a big-time veteran, he hasn't been in these kind of moments. So I think Proctor needs to remain consistent. And he was their best player for most of the game at Clemson. I think his veteran experience showed in that one. So between him and Knippel, they're going to need somebody to make shots, distribute, and take a little bit of the burden off of Flag, because as good as he is, he can't do everything all the time.
Okay, let's find out what we learned from the weekend. You know what's funny, Jim? You talking about analytically Duke being one of the better teams, and we have Ken Palm coming on the program tomorrow. We can ask him about his numbers on Duke. I just read an article earlier today. Somebody was kind of positing the idea that this Auburn team, if they were to win a national championship, this Auburn team is, as far as modern times, historically good. If I just throw that to you, would you refute it, or are you on board?
I'm very on board. I mean, if you to look at some of those same analytical measurements with Ken Palm, they're Auburn also a top 5 team in the past 30 years. Like it's crazy how we have 2 of these teams in the same season going head to head. The top of the sport is as good as it's ever been. And Auburn has also put together the best resume I've ever seen for the NCAA tournament in terms of quadrant wins and only having 2 losses while playing the toughest schedule in the entire country. Like the fewest losses and the hardest schedule is kind of mind-boggling to think about. They've got one of the best 2 players in the country with Broom, a nice blend of veterans and young guys. They've done anything you could possibly ask for them. Their only losses at home to another number 1 seed, Florida, likely, potentially another number 1 seed, and then on the road at Duke, another all-time great team. So I'm very comfortable putting Auburn in that conversation just with everything that they've accomplished and kind of the manner in which they've done it as well.
Yeah, Bruce Pearl's come up short when it comes to, winning the whole thing. He's gotten close a few times here, Jim. Another guy in the conference, Rick Barnes, he gets maligned for also doing the same, maybe losing a little bit earlier than Bruce Pearl, to be fair. But can you talk me out of getting sucked into Tennessee this year? Can you talk me out of it? Because I'm looking at them 12-1. I know they had the buzzer beater win against Alabama on Saturday. They always defend. They have some veteran guys. Am I crazy for thinking I can take a shot at Rick Barnes to finally make that run?
You're not crazy. I thought if they were going to get it done, it was last year with Connect. They were a little more modern offensively and ran a little bit more, got into transition. This year's team, they can do it. I mean, they've got one of the best 3-pronged defensive lineups you'll ever see. Jemai Meshack can guard any wing in the country. Zakai Ziegler's a reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year at point guard, and Felix Okpara at center is an unbelievable shot blocker. You just have those 3 guys. You can put almost any 2 players around them and have a great, great defense. No surprise, they're number 1 in the entire country. I just worry about the offensive style. It's more predicated on some of the off-ball movement. They run some flex concepts, which is more screening. It's less about like individual creation off the bounce. And sometimes that stuff can be scouted a little better. And I think that's started part of why Barnes has struggled a little bit in the tournament. It's less about like the individual brilliance and just kind of letting guys be incredible. And this year they've got some scorers. Lanier can make shots from anywhere. When he's hot, he can put up 7 threes. I think he made 9 in a game recently. And Ziegler's great off the bounce. He can get in the lane. I just wonder if they're going to have enough offensive creation when they get against the higher level teams. Again, the Auburn, the Florida, especially when they're not at home, because their best wins have come at home this year. They went to Florida, they lost by 30, narrowly lost at Auburn. That was a good effort. Lost on the road at Kentucky. I lost at Vanderbilt. I don't know. I'm a little more concerned with Tennessee relative to Florida, Bama, Auburn, the other teams at the top of the SEC, but perhaps that concern's outdated with Barnes, and I shouldn't be as focused on the history.
Well, Jim, Dustin mentioned the Tennessee buzzer beater against Bama. So let me ask you about Bama. It's funny with Oates. Oates wants a layup, a free throw, or a three-pointer. And when we're talking about Alabama, I know a lot of people are against them just because of the variance as far as the threes. Tournament time, are you a believer? Are you a buyer of Alabama?
Generally, yes. I don't love how reliant they are on the 3 when they're just not that good of a 3-point shooting team. They're outside the top 100. I mean, Sears is an assassin. I have no questions about his ability to hit big shots. I think Youngblood is for real too. He's really come along after getting into the starting lineup when Latrell Wrightsell got hurt. I just don't believe in the defense. I don't think they're able to consistently get stops. I don't think they can keep guys in front off the bounce. And they need to have Cliff Omori or Mohamed Diabate on the floor, because those are really the only 2 guys I would say are good defenders. And that kind of chokes the offensive spacing a little bit when those guys play there. So, and the one thing with Sears, it's so easy to say, but he only goes left. Like, he is a lefty that only goes left. And for some reason, every hesitation still fools guys. But as you get deeper in the tournament, as you get more well scouted, I think Florida does a great job of scouting this, and we're going to see that on Wednesday night this week. They're going to force Sears right, and he's going to have to be pulling up or not getting to the rim as much, and that will also short circuit the Alabama offense. So, yeah, if I'm ranking the SEC teams in terms of belief, it's Auburn clear 1. Then I think it's Florida because I think they've got more optionality in how they win, and then it's Alabama and then Tennessee as the top 4.
How about the SEC tournament? Because doesn't it feel like it's a little weird, Jim, just because it doesn't benefit Auburn to play all those games. It doesn't benefit Florida to win the SEC and play extra games. Do you think that could make for a wonky SEC conference tournament where maybe there's someone deeper down the board that can make a run and end up winning the league and getting the berth?
Yeah, definitely. I think some teams may enter that with really different goals where, like you said, Auburn, they might be the number one overall seed already. Like they could lose 3 straight games here and still be the number one overall seed. Their resume is that good. Florida last year in the SEC tournament lost Micah Handlogton to a broken leg. Could definitely see them just not wanting to risk it with 120 minutes of grind and wear and tear on their players. So at least balancing out the minutes and not playing full balls to the wall to win. Alabama, we'll see. And maybe Nate Oates remembers that they lost in the quarters last year, and that's when they actually made their best run in the NCAA tournament, made the Final Four. So perhaps that's on his mind. Tennessee, you never know. Missouri's shown the ability to play up. They've beaten Bama. They won at Florida. They competed at Tennessee. Maybe that's the kind of team that has a lot more seeding to play for in the SEC tournament, and maybe them or even Texas A&M, who's in a swoon right now. One of those two teams could be the one that goes on a run in March.
Talking to Jim Root, not a great start for our family as far as the conference tournament betting. A-Sun, Florida Gulf Coast goes down to Queens College, 71-65, obviously outright winner for Queens University, I should say.
For Florida Gulf Coast, they've now lost 3 straight years to Queens in the first round of the tournament. they're just cursed.
Let's talk conference tournament betting. It's a different beast than the tournament because obviously the familiarity. Jim, maybe some tips, and do you enjoy betting these conference tourneys?
I actually do. I really like the feeling of it's kind of a refresh button for a lot of the teams where somebody got in a rut down the stretch and lost 6 of 8 due to some bad 3-point shooting luck or whatever. You get to have the feeling of this is a new season. And a lot of the way I end up betting is kind of going back and leaning on some preseason priors where, boy, I thought Team X was going to be really good coming into the season, and then they went 8-10 in their league and just could not get the momentum going. Well, now is when they get a little resurgence and start to play back to their potential. So being able to go back to those is helpful, and just kind of circling the teams that maybe had some bad luck down the stretch and you can capitalize on that. Or on the other hand, a team that maybe made a lineup switch late or something and is really trending up and has played well since start of February or something. You can filter barttorvik.com by date and see who's been the best of a mid-major league. So I do enjoy betting them a lot just because it's kind of a new feel. You don't have to gauge the travel spots very often and rest and stay. There is a little bit of rest to the handicap, but it's more about like pretty even playing field for both teams in terms of what they're playing for.
Okay, Jim, I'm saying this lovingly, but you're a psychopath because your entire life is college basketball. All right, we agree. So there's all these leagues tipping off this week, and most of us have not followed the Horizon League and the Patriot League and the Big South and Northeast. If you were going to identify one of these conference tournaments that you think could be a lot of fun that most people aren't thinking about right now, which one jumps out to you, and maybe is there a play to make on someone to win that league?
Yeah, this was the Horizon for me. It's a topsy-turvy league every single year. I did a podcast for Action Network previewing this conference with my cohorts at 3-Man Weave, and I went through the finalists every single year. The 1 seeds made the final in 4 of the last 10 years. It is a cursed league for the big favorites. It's a great conference to try to circle an underdog and pounce on that. And that's what I'm doing. I love Northern Kentucky as a value here, a team that played really well down the stretch, has been awesome in this event over the past few years. Darren Horn's made the final in 4 of the last 6. They've won 3 of the last 6 Horizon League tournaments. They play a funky zone defense that's just, in a short turnaround like this, it's hard to prepare for, even if you've seen it during the year in the Horizon. And the fact that they're getting better at playing it defensively, they have some veteran guards to key their offense, and just generally on a upward trajectory. I like their value. I've seen it anywhere from 20 to, it was up at 43-1 at FanDuel. I think that has tumbled down to 20-1 now. But shop around. I think the Norse are a good value because they have to play an opening round game. They don't get to start in the quarters the way the top 6 seeds do, I think. But they're playing Detroit. They're at home. They're going to be like a double-digit favorite in that game. So I think they'll get by that one, and then suddenly the odds will look a lot better once they're in the quarters.
Talking to our buddy Jim Root, 3-Man Weave, the Athletic college basketball writer. Heard you can check out the podcast as well with the Action Network at Second Chance Points on Twitter. So Michigan State's going to close out. They're at Iowa on Thursday, and then they close out the regular season on Sunday, hosting Michigan. last week we were on the air. It's the irony, Michigan State. They can't shoot the three, and then they make a three-quarter shot to beat Maryland at Maryland. It's Izzo. And I know it's kind of cliche to say, but he's going to out-rebound you. They're going to obviously out-tough you. Is Michigan State legit?
They're legit. I worry a little about some of the fortune that's in their three-point numbers. I mean, their opponents in Big Ten play are making 26.6%. That's easily the lowest in the conference. And they do give up quite a bit, quite a few attempts from beyond the arc. It's historically been a strength of Izzo, like holding down opponents' three-point numbers. They never get lit up. They're always like top 100 in that. But I think it's aberrationally low right now. Wisconsin couldn't make a jumper against them. Some pretty good shooters just couldn't knock any down. I'm curious how their game goes this week against Iowa with the big win against Wisconsin coming off that, and the look ahead to the rematch to Michigan, where that game will decide basically the outright Big Ten title. And Iowa can really shoot the ball. So Thursday night, maybe you get some of that potential regression coming. But then long term, yeah, I think the floor is so high for Michigan State because, like you mentioned, Patrick, they will win the rebounding battle. They're not really going to turn it over that much, and they just don't really beat themselves. So the fact that they're that bad of a shooting team and they compete as well as they do and win as many games as they do just tells you how good they are at everything else.
You guys are much younger than me. Izzo's been coaching there the whole time you've been alive, right? I remember when literally remember when he took over. Now, we all know 99 with Mateen and winning a national championship, beating Florida. But you look up his numbers. They went on after that 99-2000 national championship. He made like Final Fours like 8 times. I mean, he had a crazy run.
So he was an assistant 1983 to 95, then's been the head coach since 95.
And I think it was like 20 straight years of recruiting classes. If you played for him for 4 years, you made a Final Four. Like he never went more than 4 years without making a Final Four. It was a ludicrous statistic that finally got broken somewhat recently. But yeah, it was crazy.
It's insane. 95. Okay, so that's 30 years, correct?
Yeah.
By my math?
Yeah. I had to think about it.
30 years. And people don't know this because I grew up in Michigan. Dustin and I always joke about it, but there was actual talks about him coaching the football team. He was such a god there. So kind of crazy. Sorry, go ahead, big guy.
Even less crazy, I think that there's also talks about him running for president of the United States one day, and that actually feels more realistic than him being the football coach. I want to ask you about the Wooden Award, Jim.
No politics.
Cooper Flagg, after tonight, no politics, no political takes. After tonight, Flagg goes 28, 8, and 7. He's back to minus 180 for the Wooden Award for Player of the Year. Janai Broom is plus 140. This thing keeps flipping back and forth. I know we don't have much time left in the season, but it feels like if you have a plus price on one of them, you should just be betting the other side. How do you think this thing actually shakes out in the end? Flagg or Broom, which one wins it?
Yeah, I think my ultimate guess is that Flagg's going to win. The thing I was worried about is he'd have so many games where they weren't playing anybody that mattered and he wouldn't be able to put up that big of stats or stats that felt meaningless. But you watch the Wake Forest game tonight and everything he did felt meaningful. They blew that game open because of him. And while Broom's going to have some chances himself to put it on a really big stage with their schedule, they've got at Texas A&M this week and then hosting Alabama again in the rematch over the weekend. But Flagg's made it through his kind of slower part of his schedule, and now they get the rematch with UNC on Saturday to win the ACC outright. And if they go through the ACC tournament dominant again, he's just got so much momentum behind him as the potential number one pick in the NBA draft, or very likely number one pick, and having the Duke across the chest. I would say my guess is Flagg does win it, but I think the odds have been close and moving so much because it is that close. I think it's justified. So maybe if Broom has a huge game tomorrow night against Texas A&M, then we see a big shift again.
So we have, speaking of tomorrow night, Jim, we've got a really, I'm excited for this game at Iowa State. So 23 BYU, obviously a different team on the road at Iowa State. This is a big spot for a ranked BYU team. I think the number's probably right around 8.5-ish. What's your take on this BYU Iowa State matchup?
Yeah, I think for a while the reputation for BYU was, as you're saying, like, they're just not the same team on the road. But then they won at West Virginia across the country. They won at Arizona. a really, really big win for them, the one that kind of validated them and got them locked into the NCAA tournament. And they beat Arizona State, who was down to like 5 players. But, 3 straight road wins at least tells you they can compete there. But this one's a little more about Iowa State for me and who they are when they're full strength. They've only lost 1 game all season when they've had everybody healthy. That was to Auburn by 2 on a neutral floor. A rather impressive game there. And now they've got everybody back. Keyshawn Gilbert's back in the lineup, even though he wasn't that good over the weekend. Momcilovic is back with his wrist all fixed up. Curtis Jones is back from his illness. They're full strength again. I think we continue to see Iowa State reemerge as the team that everybody fell in love with in November and December. We saw it again, that form against Arizona over the weekend. They completely handled that game on both ends. And I think they can do the same thing to BYU in front of that Hilton Magic on senior night. There's going to be some emotions there, but I trust Iowa State to overcome that in front of their big crowd.
How about in the Big East? You're targeting Villanova tomorrow. They're laying 3.5 on the road at Georgetown. Villanova, not really as sexy as they've been in years past. Early in the year, there were some opportunities. It felt like they were a hungry team to back as some short home favorites against some of the top teams in the Big East. Why are you looking at them tomorrow on the road at Georgetown, other than Georgetown's horrible?
Yeah, the big part of it is Georgetown and where they're at right now. They're really struggling, and since they lost Thomas Sorber, their big freshman shot blocker, they're kind of hopeless defensively. Their guards don't keep guys in front all that well, and now they don't have a big guy to clean things up at the rim. So that's a real problem for me. I like the spot for Villanova in the sense that it's their last game of the year. They don't have anything to look ahead to over the weekend, and they lost to Georgetown at home by 1 back in January. So you got a little road revenge there, which I always like as a handicapping angle because the number's going to be shorter when you're seeking revenge on the road. Shorthanded Georgetown. Villanova, they're probably out of it for at-large, even if they go all the way to the Big East tournament. But I like this building momentum towards a potential Big East tournament run, and you continue it by going to Georgetown, taking out a team that's really shorthanded and struggling and limping to the finish line. And the number's 3.5 because Sorber's out. You could have seen it be like 1 if he was playing, but I don't think it's far enough. I think the Wildcats go in and handle business on the road.
Okay, and then last one here, Jim Root doing a great job. Auburn goes on the road tomorrow at 22 A&M. Auburn laying 5.5. I think you're going to take it with the Aggies.
Yeah, which is scary. I mentioned right at the top of the segment how much I don't like fading these elite teams right now. Your Floridas, your Dukes, your Houstons. But I think this is as good a spot as you will ever find to fade an elite team. Auburn just clinched SEC regular season title, at least, outright, actually. So they celebrated that on Saturday. I think they might have celebrated a little bit on Sunday, too. Now they go on the road to a hyper-physical team, Texas A&M, that's lost 4 straight games and is kind of reeling and needs a big performance. I don't know if they're going to get the job done outright, but I love having basically 2 possessions on the line. I think they're going to at least punch Auburn in the mouth, and we're going to see if Auburn celebrated too hard or if they're going to stick around and fight all the way back. But this is a bad matchup for a team that would be feeling itself. You're getting a desperate physical squad on the road. I think the spot is as good as you're ever going to find for the Aggies.
Love it. Love talking about the spots. Okay, let's just get an update here before we say goodbye. So what's happening right now? Kansas up 13-8 Houston up 13-8 on Kansas. And, okay, so they ended up scoring a little late there. Crushed your under. Duke 93-60 over Wake. Ugh.
Yeah, I shouldn't be doubting Duke's offense at this point. That's my own fault. I brought that evil on myself. That's what I get.
93 points. Wow. Jim Root, 3-man weave in The Athletic. Of course, you heard podcasts at Action as well, at Second Chance Points on Twitter. Thanks, Jim. That was awesome. We'll talk to you next Monday.
Appreciate it, guys. Looking forward to it. See ya. Enjoy.
Okay, thank you very much. There goes Jim Root. You can watch it as well on YouTube now at VSiN Live. That one, by the way, Duke, you heard him say, because we're going to have tomorrow, we're going to have Ken Pom on. And what he's talking about when he's talking about historic as far as the analytics, Ken Pom for years has been compiling analytics, and he doesn't really care about the eyeball test. He's literally just telling you, here's what these teams do. Defensive efficiency, offensive efficiency. Literally so many components and so many variables. And he's telling you how top-heavy this year is. He's saying Auburn historically good, Duke historically good. And That's been the case thus far. I mean, look at both teams lost, 2-3 games?
Yeah, I want to know. I haven't seen it out there. If there's an Auburn and Duke versus the field bet when it comes to winning the national title. Because, look, I love upsets. I think most people tune in to March Madness because they like the big teams, the blue bloods going down early. But I do think Duke and Auburn are kind of foolproof. Like, I don't see them getting caught early in this process. And I think they're deep enough. They have enough guys that are elite prospects. They're good on both ends of the floor. I think that's the difference between these two and some of the number one seeds of years past that we just assumed were going to go to the Final Four. I'm curious if someone posts that number, what it would be. Duke and Auburn on one side and the field on the other, because I would normally never do this. I would take Duke and Auburn on that bet.
Yeah, I would too. What do you think the number would be?
Minus 120? Am I crazy? I don't know how to. My brain doesn't compute that way. I don't know.
Duke, Auburn.
So
somebody's going to post it. You should ask Benson over at Circa.
Let me text. Why don't I text Gable?
Coming back, we'll transition back to the NFL. So some news and notes coming out of the Combine. The Combine is done. We do have Shedeur Sanders news. It's not overly positive for the Colorado quarterback. And 3 up, 3 down with the big guy, Combine style. It's VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
The biggest betting month of the year is finally here. Championship week is tipping off, and with the NBA and NHL playoff races heating up, the PGA Tour is in full swing, and MLB opening day around the corner. There's nonstop excitement to wager on. Stay one step ahead of the game with a VSiN Pro subscription, your ultimate betting playbook for the tournament and beyond, for as little as $9.99. So this is a great deal. New subscribers get full access to expert analysis and best bets from our hosts and guests, daily emails with exclusive picks and insights, deep dive stats to help you make smarter bets, plus our upcoming March Mania betting guide. Your key to winning this tournament seasons. Don't bet blind, bet smarter. Start your VSiN Pro subscription today for just $9.99 at vsin.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher, and I doing a great job producing back in New York City. So Dustin asked an interesting question. So we just had Jim Root on, and we were talking about how historically good this Auburn team, and now he included the Duke team as far as the analytics, how historically good they are. So we were wondering what the books would set Auburn and Duke v. the field. And we texted legendary Hall of Fame bookmaker Vinny Magliulo at the South Point, and he got back to the big guy. So before you give me the number, go ahead.
Let me clarify. Vinny has an SEC versus the field. Thomas Gable hit me with his own version of what he would make the number for Auburn Duke versus the field.
Okay, cool. Well, if you don't mind, I'm going to guess at both.
Yes.
And I'm going to be wildly off, but I'll just say what
tough.
I feel. SEC versus the field?
Yes.
SEC versus the field. SEC versus the field. What number
let me give you some context. You've got Auburn, your favorite, Florida's fourth, Alabama fifth, Tennessee sixth, 7, 8, 9, Missouri 10th, A&M 11th, Kentucky is 13. So 13 of your top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. No, that's not right. 13 of your top 15, it looks like.
How many teams was that? 6 teams?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So out of 14 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are SEC teams.
Okay. SEC versus the field in the tournament. Vinny, Hall of Famer, make it 2-1.
Field opened minus 160, SEC plus 140. It was bet to the field minus 175. They took SEC money this past week, your current price. The field minus 130, SEC plus 110.
Wow. I said plus 200, so 2-1. That is a short number.
That is super short.
Thank you to Vinny Magliulo for your participation. We miss you, buddy. He's the best Hall of Famer there at the South Point bookmaker for 40 years in Vegas. The next one up is also friend of the show, bookmaker at the Borgata in Atlantic City, Thomas Gable. And you asked him specifically just for fun to put a number on Duke in Auburn.
Yeah, and I want to just point out that he did this like 4 minutes later. He came. This is what these guys do. It's kind of wild. He goes top of my head, Auburn Duke plus 2.
What? Why would you not let me guess? Are you born
know.
yesterday? Like, what the hell are you doing? We're doing a radio show.
I don't know. My mind went blank there. I'll be honest.
Holy moly!
My mind went blank.
Plus, I guess what'd you say? Plus 240?
No.
What is
280.
it?
280.
Okay.
And the other side minus 335. That's my bet. I might just started reading. I don't know.
But I guess what you would have to know is you'd have to see a bracket.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of it does hinge on.
They're going to be on opposite sides, though.
Oh no! This has to be set up for them to meet in the championship. That's it. Anything other than that would be a massive disappointment.
Yeah, I would agree. Shire's doing a hell of a job there. You take over for Coach K. There's a lot of pressure, and he's doing a good job. And like I said, there was a great article. I think it was Yahoo today, about what Bruce Pearl has done at Auburn, and it's pretty impressive. He's a weird dude. He's obviously a boastful, boisterous dude, but he can coach his ass off.
Okay, but in the same respects, can we at least acknowledge that the landscape has changed and what he got his show cause for at Tennessee? Well, it was a couple things. He lied about Tyler Smith, I believe his name is, recruiting from Pulaski, Tennessee. I remember that. But he also, the big one was Aaron Kraft went to a barbecue at his house, and it wasn't just that he broke the rule. It's that he lied to the NCAA about that. I think in today's world, a player going to a coach's house for a barbecue, probably not going to result in them having to be out of the sport for a few years. I think that's fair.
I just don't need the Bruce Pearl shirtless on the boat pics.
You just don't like shtick, but in college sports, shtick matters.
Like your boy Jim Harbaugh sleeping in the treehouse.
Yeah, exactly. Look, that's how you sell the program. You got to do a little shtick. You got to be a showman. But you're right, though. I'm looking at his record by year. All the guy does is win games. 68.2% career winning percentage. At Auburn, 66.6%. That's not a good number. That's the Devil's number. That's not good.
So Pearl went Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Did he flip that to Tennessee?
He did. He went Milwaukee, where he had a 69.4 win percentage, and at Tennessee, he had a 70.4 win percentage.
Yeah, that's wild. How long? He's got it. He's been there for 10 plus years at Auburn.
You know what? You're right. I'm shocked, but I don't know what.
Maybe 12?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is year 11.
Year 11? Okay. Yeah, he's been there a long time.
I don't know why I thought he's only been there like 5 or 6 years.
I know, time flies.
That's
time
crazy.
Flies.
2014, first year.
So the time is up on the Combine in Indy. If you didn't pay attention, don't worry. The big guy's got you covered. A little 3 up, 3 down, and some news and notes from the Combine. What do you got for us, big guy?
Well, let's begin with some Combine losers where, I mean, look, there are names I can throw at you that will bore you that we can get into, and Tez Johnson and Will Campbell that you'll yell at me because they're not quarterbacks. So we should begin with the quarterback. Okay. And that's Shedeur Sanders is by far your single biggest loser when it comes to the Combine. And it's really just because he didn't compete. He didn't do anything. He didn't showcase any skills. And then you looked around him, and we'll get into the winners after this. I have a couple quarterback winners that I think might end up being better pro quarterbacks than Shedeur. And I said a couple. So that means that there's one that was pretty obvious over the weekend and one that I think is going to fly up the draft boards over the course of the next month or so. But the big issue with Shedeur was Josina Anderson had a report earlier today. This was her exact tweet. Quote, "I'm disappointed to hear that a quarterback coach from a team drafting in the top 7 referred to Shedeur Sanders as coming off as brash and arrogant in his team interview and making his assessment known to a number of people per source." She went on to explain it more about him showing off his personality, but apparently
why is she bitter? Why is she editorializing?
That is a weird move. She may be close to him, close to Dion, I'm not sure, but it is a weird move. The issue I have is why is a guy so happy to be the number 2 quarterback in the class, right? Coming into this, he was aware Cam Ward was the number 1 guy. If you're number 2, why wouldn't you go out there to show that you're better than number 1 instead of trying to play it safe and not drop further out of the mix?
What I don't understand, like is that something that's happening, that he's just conceding that he's not the number 1 quarterback?
No. I don't know if he's conceding it, but the perception certainly is. The perception is Cam Ward is the only number 1 guy. And there was a couple of reports coming out where some scouts were saying that there's a chance that Shedeur's not a first-round talent. That's why the question was going around early last week where the Titans GM was asked about his arm strength. People question whether Shedeur Sanders has the arm strength to be a legit franchise quarterback. And they're also questioning how much of his success was that team just airing it out a ton, no run game, no offensive line for a couple years at Colorado, but even bigger, a lot of short passes to Travis Hunter, a lot of screens where Hunter's making the plays, and it's not necessarily Shedeur throwing him open.
I think Shedeur is going to be I think he's going to be a starter. I don't think he's going to be special.
Yeah, I don't think he's special either. I agree with you. I think he's a starter, and I think this class has a few guys that are in a similar mold. I just, I wonder about not testing. That's all. I don't, maybe I'm being weird and holding something against him that's unfair, but if I was number 2, I'd want to go out there and show I'm number 1. He doesn't have to throw, but some of the other things that the quarterbacks are doing down there to show their athleticism might help.
Who does Josina Anderson work for?
That is a good question. Let me click her profile. Josina now works. Why is this not clicking? I don't see a
okay, so then maybe that's why she can editorialize, because maybe she's an independent journalist at this point.
Yes. So her website's
still a weird move.
The Exhibit Concept is her website. Should I click it? Clicked it. Nope. It says the shady website. I'm on the SiriusXM computers. It says the shady website, so I'm not going to get in trouble here. I am just
all right. So down is your boy Shedeur Sanders. Who's next?
Will Campbell. He's the offensive tackle out of LSU. I know, like, a lot of people aren't focusing on offensive tackles, but I read a lot of mock drafts, and up until this weekend, this guy was projected to go top 5 by everyone. Either New England at 4, Jacksonville at 5, and then they measured him. His arm length was over an inch below what the optimal offensive tackle size is. So they want like 34 to 35. He was 32 3/4. So that's a big deal. He also measured as having short hands or small hands, short arms, a small wingspan, which means what? He's likely moving to guard, which means you lose millions of dollars going from that first offensive tackle off the board to being an interior lineman. And it didn't help him either that the kid from Mizzou, Armand Meboun, I don't know how to say his name, he went nuts. He ran a crazy 40-yard dash. He had a great workout. He's skyrocketing upwards. But for a guy who's going to be the first offensive left tackle taken in Will Campbell, he might have lost out on millions this weekend.
I know for a fact, I can't believe you're slow rolling. How bad are you itching to talk about Jackson Dart?
That's my number one winner. Jackson Dart looked awesome. Jackson Dart is an athlete.
God.
Jackson
Are
Dart
you sure you're not just don't have a crush on him?
He was a 5-star recruit. He is an elite talent prospect. The ball flew out of his hands. It jumped out of his arm. It was such perfect, precise throws, hitting guys in stride, showed off the deep ball. Look, I don't know if he's better than Shedeur, but he's not worse. He's not worse than Shedeur at quarterback. He didn't run the 40, but I think he's athletic enough that it'll show at his pro day. This is a guy that apparently the Steelers are obsessed with, and they don't want other people to know. That's the reports coming out. I saw Jeff Howe from The Athletic report. 2 teams believe he goes in the first half of the first round. And then Tony Rizzo from ESPN Cleveland said Pittsburgh's trying to keep it a secret, but they freaking love this kid, and they want to draft him in the 20s where they're picking. Jackson Dart was the winner of the Combine over the weekend. There's not even a doubt.
How many dudes have we seen light up the Combine? Your boy Johnny Manziel didn't miss a throw with a visor and Drake bumping in the background, and now you're sold because Jackson Dart was accurate at the Combine.
All I'm saying is I didn't see Shedeur throw. I did see him throw Jackson Dart, and Jackson Dart has all the skills to be an NFL quarterback. And I think I'm not saying he's a star. I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback, but I'm saying he's right there with Shedeur Sanders to me talent-wise.
Okay, fair enough. Size-wise, how did Dart measure?
You know what? I didn't see his actual size because there was no issues with it, but he's about, 6'2", 6'3", somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Want to say 225 pounds. Yeah, 6'2", 225 pounds. But there's another quarterback that I love, and I didn't like him in college. I thought he was mid, but now I've fallen in love with him when it comes to transferring to the NFL, and that's Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers, I really didn't like him at Texas. I don't think you liked him either, right?
No, but
okay.
But part of it is I can't stand Sarkisian's offense.
No, but there's a few things with Ewers that reminds me of J.J. McCarthy from a year ago, where also I didn't love J.J. McCarthy, but I think a year later I understand the upside of the pick. For starters, he's 21 years old, and he's played a lot of football. You have to remember, 5-star kid enrolled early at Ohio State. So because of that, he's technically supposed to be in college for another year, but instead he's already going pro. And he's made a lot of big-time throws over the last couple seasons for Texas. But the thing being slept on completely with Quinn Ewers, and a lot of the quotes came out over the weekend, this guy was hurt all year. He had multiple injuries that were holding him back. He obviously missed some time, but he was never at 100%. And I think there's an upside with Ewers. There's a lot of experience with Ewers despite being 21, where I think if a team gets him in the second round or if he somehow slips to the third, he's going to end up being the steal of the draft because he is a guy that has legit pro potential if he goes to the right situation. Like, he is a Jordan Love type to me, where if he goes somewhere where he's not expected to start right away, year 2, year 3, Quinn Ewers could be your go-to guy as your starting quarterback. And I just think not a lot is being talked about how banged up he was last season.
Wow, you were high on Ewers.
I didn't like him. I didn't like him last 2 years, but I think the experience matters. And I think a lot of what he does, accuracy-wise, decision-making-wise, clutch throws, especially on third down, that's going to translate to the NFL.
All right. 3 up, 3 down, combine edition from the big guy. Anything else stand out from the combine?
Yeah, one note, your boy from South Carolina, the safety, Nick Emanuwari.
He's crazy.
We just have to touch on that. He had like the most all-time combine performance. Only safety to ever run a 4.440, jump over 43 vert, over 11 feet broad, and had the highest RAS, that's relative athletic score, 10.00 for a strong safety since 1987. That is absurd. He ran a 4.3940, and he's like 6'3", 220 pounds.
I know
he is going to be a monster in the NFL.
And it's important too because obviously the position is such a premium now in modern day football, the safety. So yeah, he's a freak. And there were my friends down in South Carolina were texting about him that he was going to test like crazy. I don't think we thought he was going to test like that crazy.
No. But also he's a safety at that size can cover, right? Gone are the days those safeties that like just stop the run. I think of like Bob Sanders back in the day. No. This is a kid who's going to show up and he can cover someone man to man at that size with that speed, with that physicality. Like, he's a game changer on the defense day one.
Good stuff, big guy. Straight from the combine. I want to give you a couple updates quickly. Oklahoma City is running away from Houston, 105-89, 11:30 to play in the fourth. That game was tight early. Speaking of tight, Kansas is hanging in there against Houston, 23-23, 3:19 to play in the first half. I did end up going Kings, and they're up 10 at the break over the Mavs. And I did end up going Pistons, and the Pistons are up 36-22 with 10:59 to play in the second.
Utah stinks. I think it's a great note from John Metler earlier in the show. In case you missed it, go back, SiriusXM app, or also on YouTube now. You can watch the show live, but also it'll be available to watch after it's done. Great point about the Jazz. Jazz don't want to win. They're going to rest guys. They're going to claim injuries. This is one of the worst teams in basketball. It's only going to play worse from here on out.
888 Mad Dog 6, 888-623-3646. We're going to close tabs coming back here on VSiN Live.
This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson. Covering the spread all night long. This is VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Here's Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.
In the past, talking to our buddy Rob Brender, who's doing updates tonight. Great to talk to you, Rob. Dustin Swedelson, I'm Patrick Meagher, and he did say he was shocked that the big guy had a girlfriend. The big guy got a little toot, but that's okay. Why do you get so quiet?
I mean, I wasn't about that. It was just that, like, look, I'm shocked I have a girlfriend too, but if I acknowledge it too often, eventually she's going to realize it and run away.
Yeah, but I don't know if she's doing updates tonight, but she wasn't, I don't think she could hear the conversation. I digress. Just quickly on this one, a little bit of a surprise to start. Still plenty of basketball to go. Houston just up 3, a minute to play in the first. Kansas was up, but Houston just retook the lead 28-25. So we'll keep you updated there. What else? Samish wants to know if you're in Vegas. No, the big guy's in Los Angeles with Shorty. Samish,
yes.
If you're listening. And if you're watching, by the way, you can watch us now on YouTube at VSiN Live. We are streaming every day, every show on VSiN Live. The Pistons are putting beat down 44-32 over the Jazz. Finished up tonight. You had the Warriors beat up on the Hornets, and the Trailblazers are all of a sudden respectable.
Yeah, I had a bet.
They beat the 76ers on the road.
I bet Anthony Simons over 19.5 points. He went for 34, so that's always
Easy.
nice when you don't have to sweat it out. But they're a weird team. Like, they have a lot of really young players, but none of them look like superstars. So I'm very curious about the direction they go in. But they've won way more games than I anticipated them winning. They're 28-34. I thought they'd be like Wizards bad, but they're not on that level because the Wizards, by the way, lost 106-90 at Miami. They're still sitting on 11 wins.
Shouts at Chauncey. All right, let's close tabs on the way out. What do you got for us?
It's time to wrap up today's show. You see what I did there? Yeah. By finishing all of the conversations we touched on today. This is Closing Tabs.
All right, good job, Naya. What do you got, big guy?
All right, you said you couldn't make yourself watch Hoosiers. So I looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score. It's a 91% on the tomato meter. When we go popcorn meter, that's fan voting. That's over 50,000 ratings on the movie. It's 88%.
Yeah, but that's because that's one of those, like, if you like the movie, you go and jock it. Like, there's nobody over there like, well, actually, here's what I thought. Nobody's being negative about Hoosiers.
All people do is go on the internet to log in about how they complain about something. Like, go read any restaurant's Yelp. It is all people complaining.
Why don't you get together with your girl tonight and tell her how good Hoosiers is and actually sit down and watch it with her and tell me what you think tomorrow?
But I don't make decisions in the relationship. It doesn't work that way.
So what will you watch? Now, that is a fascinating question. What does she make you watch?
She likes the trashiest of trash TV you've ever seen. Did you know that there is a show called Love After Lockup?
No. Sounds shady.
People fall in love with prisoners, and then they begin relationships upon release. And I know you're going to be shocked to hear this. It doesn't usually go well.
Oh, no. You're kidding. Well, enjoy that tonight.
That's what I'll be watching.
What else is going on?
Let's see. You mentioned Mozart, full name Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. He was born in 1756, died at 35 years old in 1791 in Austria.
R.I.P.
I'm curious. You mentioned you were a little hungover. What is your hangover cure?
Nothing. Just get out, work out, try to just get on with your day. I wasn't really hungover. By the way, Mozart into scatological humor.
Don't know what that is.
Finding Mozart on Amazon. Anything else on the way out?
Yeah, you and Tony mentioned Tycoons Executive Club, a strip club in Detroit. I noticed they spell out Tycoons on their sign by using one of the strippers' C-section scars for the letter C.
Tycoons on 8 Mile in Detroit is trashy but fantastic. Naya, thank you. Big guy, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. VSiN Live, Mad Dog Sports Radio.
Covering the spread all night long. VSiN Live on Mad Dog Sports Radio with Patrick Meagher and Dustin Swedelson.